Welcome. Calling to orders this meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District Board. It's May 15th, 2025. It's 7:34 p.m. Stu, roll call. Director Young.
Present.
Director Slater Carter.
Here.
Director Sofsky. Here. And Director Boyd is here. Director Decker is not here this evening. For a president's statement tonight, I'm going to first off welcome a record crowd online and here at the district office. We've got some weighty items to discuss tonight, and we're glad for the public participation. But I can tell you right now, we've got a lot to do and a lot of people who no doubt we're going to have a lot to say. So we're going to tonight restrict public comment per person to 3 minutes each, and ask that you keep that in mind so you can get in everything that you want to say. With that, let's go to the public hearing, review and possible urgency act. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Do we have any oral comments for items that are not on the agenda? Okay, I'm looking for any hands or anyone else as well. 2 minutes. Okay, so first Director Young and then Director Salt.
Regarding our favorite videographer, PCTV, they called me and mentioned that they are trying to negotiate with the county for their PEG fees and their right-of-way fees for providing public to our area. And they were being paid the 5% from right-of-way fee and 1.21% PEG fee, and the county hasn't renewed their contract for a while, so they are asking for our help in order to get the county to do the right thing and extend their contract at the normal rate that they had before. The county's trying to take away the 1.21% because they need to fix their boardroom audio, but that amount of that fee is just for the coast side. So Marty Anaya was asking if did I say it right, Alaya or Naya? Asked if we would provide a letter to help the people who do our video, most of the public meetings on the coast. And the second thing I have to say was Lisa Ketchum. They're going to be a memorial service for her May 31st. There'll probably be details in Coastside Buzz, but they also mentioned at the MCC meeting last night. Number 3, regarding our boardroom issue, I called CCWD had a fire in their office a few years ago, like 11 years ago or something, and they had portable units for a while. So if we continue to have the boardroom overflow problem, maybe we could consider mobile modular. And I made a call today. They're in San Francisco, and they're going to send us a bid for like a classroom size. I think it said it was hold on, I think it's 40 by 24 by 40, which would be enough to hold a meeting with people in the room. And it comes with a plug-in for power, etc. Last, I'd like to know if we have director's liability or E&O insurance, because when I first joined, I'm not sure I got a good answer, but it's getting to the point where I'd like to know the answer for sure. So do we have director's liability insurance?
Yes, we do, and we can double check how that looks like. And I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like a copy of mine with my name on it if possible. Thank you. And the county posted a link next door today, and it says something like Seal Cove residents are advised to sign up for the county's planning department Seal Cove updates for and that's on next door, and you can it's through the planning department. Also, no, that was it, I think. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Director Sofsky.
Is this thing working? It doesn't seem to be pulling out. 2 hours.
You're getting a
2 hours ago, I got to watch the most elaborate ribbon cutting ceremony I'd ever imagined at the brand new county building, this giant copper and green thing with all of the array politicians and supervisors. And booming voices like baseball announcers. It was a wonderful thing, and when they finally opened it up, I saw that the supervisors' chambers are gorgeous and opulent and far worth it. But clearly, the county is feeling happy and flush, at least this afternoon. On the other hand, 2 days ago in Monterey, I got to hear the manager of the water utility in the Palisades area describe what he had to deal with when 2/3 of his area was burning up, twice in some sense. And the kind of emergency preparedness, the kind of emergencies which are hitting California more and more, are the thing which really occupies my mind. And I want us to be dealing with a possible conflagration in town. I want us to do the most forward-looking things we can possible on Seal Cove. Some of it's been seen for a while, but this month's version is this month. And so we've got so much work to do. I really want us to focus on how to do it best.
Piggyback on what he said, the county borrowed the money for that building long ago. And I think, you know, they were flush when they borrowed the money,
Okay.
because we're one of the wealthiest counties in the whole nation.
Okay.
But now, because there's a certain person in the Oval Office, they didn't have extra money now. So they're having their budget meetings 3 days in a row in June. And that's when we are hoping that they'll be able to fund the coast side, because we usually left
Okay.
that.
All right, let's move on now to the review and possible urgency actions.
Public comment.
Oh, thank you. I didn't see the hands go up. Okay, so these are for items that are not on the agenda, correct? So we do have public comment on the agenda items as we come to them. So let me just ask, I saw a couple of hands go down, apparently waiting for an agenda item. Andrew Corcoran, do you have a comment for something that is not on the, okay, you lowered your hand. Sabrina Brennan.
Hi, hopefully you can hear me because I'm in the car right now. Calling in to remind the board that you need to find meeting space where the public is able to attend, and that hasn't happened yet. Please rent a portable building, or if we have to be in a tent, whatever it takes, there needs to be a meeting room to accommodate the public that is consistent with the California state law, which is the Brown Act. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Seeing no more public comment, let's
Please
move
stop
now.
that again.
Excuse me? Okay, review and possible urgency actions. I'm sorry.
Her hand hasn't gone down, but she does talk.
Okay. That's cool. Review and possible urgency actions, Seal Cove critical geotechnical hazards area emergency. Clemens?
I think Christine, our legal counsel, needs to make a statement.
All right,
this
Christine?
point.
Thank you. Good evening, directors. Thank you, President Boyd. First, a short word about the meeting room situation. There have been complaints, and we just received one about the board's temporary meeting room setup and claims that it violates the Brown Act. The Brown Act is also known as California's open meeting law. Our meeting setup does not violate the Brown Act. I want to clear up the common misconception that the term open means literally that the meeting door must remain physically open at all times. The law does not require that, and it has never been interpreted in that manner. The term open refers to public access to meetings and the right of the public to meaningfully participate in board decisions. The board has done that in this case. Due to temporary structural concerns while the remodel is underway, seating is limited. And in order to serve the live broadcast just outside the meeting room, as well as Zoom access, the door remains closed. Members of the public are brought in individually to comment. Staff has also posted a clear notice explaining this process and the reasons for it. Public apologize for my dog barking. Public access and participation have been and continue to be preserved. I know that the board and staff apologize for the inconvenience and are working to balance transparency with safety for all attendees. And this was the best solution that complies with the law. So that having been said, I do want to address the board and enter a brief statement into the record regarding conflict of interest laws that are applicable to this board's decision that's agendized for public hearing. The general framework of the conflict of interest law is found in the Political Reform Act, and that's in Government Code 81,000 et sec, with the implementing regulations for that law found in Title II of the Code of Regulations, sections 18.1110 through 18.997. Public officials must not participate in decisions where they have or may have a financial interest. This includes direct and indirect actions. The goal of the act is to maintain public trust through transparency, accountability, and especially impartiality, avoiding not just actual impropriety, but any perceived appearance of impropriety. The public deserves decisions driven solely by public interest and not by a board member's personal gain. Recusal protects both the fairness of the board's process and the individual member from legal and ethical exposure. The specific rules that disqualify Director Young's participation in this item this evening start with the real property interest rules. For those that are interested, that's generally set forth in Title II of the Code of Regulations, Section 18702.2. This rule presumes there's a material conflict of interest if a board member resides within 500 feet or even between 500 and 1,000 feet of an affected area. In this case, the emergency zone is an active geological hazard area, and Director Young resides smack dab in the middle of it. The emergency work that initially occurred was approximately 400 feet from her residence. Future work may even be closer, including the potential relocation of a fire hydrant. The ongoing unpredictable land movement means that each property could be impacted differently with varying risk, costs, and restrictions. Therefore, the effect is not uniform across the public, which reinforces the disqualifying nature of the interest under the real property rule. There's also the personal financial effects rule that's found in Title II of the Code of Regulations, that's Section 18702.5. A board member is also disqualified if the decision may impact their personal finances. If the decision involves district funds for emergency work, for example, which is the case here, or imposes costs on residents in the affected area, this creates a conflict. And that includes direct and indirect financial impacts tied to property ownership or residents located in the affected area. Now, there's limited exceptions to these rules. There's an exception known as the public generally exception, and that's found in Title II, California Code of Regulations, Section 18703. That rule states that a board member may participate only if the decision affects a significant segment of the public in the same way. For example, all ratepayers or all parcels district-wide. But this exception does not apply where the impact is concentrated in a small area or It uniquely affects properties in the area, including a board member's property. In this case, the effects are generally property specific and uneven, again, due to the unpredictable nature of the land movement. Moreover, these decisions cannot be segmented or confined to routine sewer service or water service because the emergency conditions are fluid and evolving. There's also a sewer facilities in streets exception. And that's found somewhere, but for some reason I didn't make a note of which regulation that's under. But what this exception provides is that routine decisions about maintenance or repair of sewer or water lines in streets are typically do not constitute a financial interest under the FPPC rules. However, the decision that the board is considering and has considered goes beyond routine maintenance. It relates to emergency response, service feasibility, and even potential infrastructure retreat or abandonment. The impacts, again, are non-uniform and property specific due to the accelerated land instability and associated risks. Therefore, this exception, in my opinion, does not apply because this is not a typical infrastructure repair scenario. And I'll just make one last final note regarding Director Young's role as a representative of District 4. Is that correct? Division 4? Do I have that correct? Okay. While officials are elected or appointed to, in this case, elected to represent their constituents, their primary duty is to the public at large. When personal finances are involved, the law prioritizes impartiality over representation in that matter. Participating decisions where one may benefit financially or even be perceived as doing so is prohibited. Under Government Code Section 87-100, a board member with a disqualifying interest must not make, vote, participating in making or influencing the decision or the outcome of the decision. Recusal in these cases, such as this, preserves the integrity of the board actions and maintains public trust. In this case, my recommendation, again, is that Director Young recuse herself for the reasons I explained, and I believe Director Young wishes to also address the issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Yes, I do want to address the issue because I am getting a lot of people asking me questions about this and asking why I have to recuse. So I'm glad you made a detailed explanation. But someone who's an attorney sent me the thing that says on FPPC Rule 1872.2, page 3, the decision solely concerns repairs, replacement, maintenance of existing streets, water, sewer, storm drain, or similar facilities. And we're not talking about moving houses or anything here, so I just don't understand. It seems like you're disadvantaging the Seal Cove neighborhood where they got a grant to fix the 25 homes sewer pipe on Valimar. We are a district. So what affects one affects all. And it to me and to other people who seem to live in the neighborhood feels like they're picking on us or singling us out. And there's no representation. So I don't know. I'd still like to stay in the room and listen to the presentation. If you want, I won't vote, but the
law requires that you actually leave the room.
Okie doke. Oh, wait, no.
That seems pretty egregious. So are the public allowed to comment?
So we brought this item to the first time to the board on March 27. And that was when we initially took several emergency actions that are related to the Seal Cove critical geotechnical hazard area. So this is now the fourth meeting where we report about this item. And this reoccurring item provides a status of the emergency work performed, future work to be formed, and the overall condition of the emergency in the Seal Cove area. That is done on a regular basis so that the board may determine whether the situation warrants the continuation of an emergency. And that will happen at every single board meeting until we have that situation resolved. So we've continued to work very hard to move this forward. And I know many of you have attended all 4 meetings. So I'm just going to focus on the highlights that we've been able to achieve in the meantime. Of course, we've met with many of you individually. We've responded to number of inquiries. And we, of course, also met with our regulators, the State Water Resources Control Board, that is, regarding the situation out there, and the sewer and water systems in the hazard zone. We also met with our insurance providers, as we already did before, and continued also the review of the history that is related to Seal Cove and the impact of the land movement that is well documented, but still very complicated de facto. I think there are some really good things that I want to highlight that we've achieved in the meantime with San Mateo County. And I wanted to particularly thank the residents that have helped us and supported us with requests to San Mateo County. And I think that has helped to push this a little further along. So we actually got some clarity on staff meetings that we will continue with San Mateo County in the very near future on the above ground water service line design that we've presented here at the last meeting. We've gotten some confirmations from the Department of Public Works that encroachment permits for this type of work can be issued. And we've also learned that there is actually a geotech study that looks current, that is coming out very soon, that was in preparation and initiated in 22. So 2 years ago, due to the impacts of the winter storms that the county saw on roads out there. That's not going to be suitable to help us in decision making, but there is an effort to update the 1980 geotech hazard study that the planning agency bases its decision on. And what I have learned is that this is happening much faster than I anticipate. So the county estimates that in 2 months, there will be results that can be shared. So at this point, we are recommending that the board continue the temporarily suspending the issuance of sewer and water permits to the area. We've seen some red and yellow tagged areas. We also understand that there is this review of the geotech hazard zone, so we're looking very closely at the county to help us resolve this temporary permitting hold, so that folks that have property out there can can look at their projects again. And yeah, so we are asking the board to move approval, determining that the emergency conditions still exist, and warrants continuing the suspension of competitive bidding and authorizing the expenditures of funds therefore. And we ask for to adopt the continuing interim urgency ordinance of the Board of Directors of the Montara Water and Sanitary District, temporarily suspending the issuance of water and sewer permits or otherwise restricting said service within the Seal Cove critical geotechnical hazard area. And with that, I'm asking the board president to open the public hearing to allow relevant testimony.
All right. I'm opening the public hearing. I want to reiterate that public comment will be limited to 3 minutes apiece. I will be going both to online speakers and to members of the public who are here in person. Clemens, do we have someone coordinating the speaker slips here?
I can do it if that.
I'm gonna ask Eric.
Okay, so we'll get that underway. So while he's doing that, I'm going to reiterate that what the board is considering tonight is approving that the emergency condition still exists and warrants continuing the suspension of competitive bidding and authorizing the expenditures of funds, therefore. And also the board is being asked to adopt the continuing interim urgency ordinance. So those are the items under consideration tonight. Just so we've got that context, and we'll take your public comment. So let's go first. I'm gonna start with someone on Zoom, and then Clemens, we're gonna be able to get
Yeah,
that.
we need just 1 minute for collection of the speaker
Okay,
slips.
so speaker slips are being collected, but let's go to our first online comment. We go to Michelle.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Ullman. I live at 155 LeGrand next to lift station number 4. And I urge each of the board members to vote no tonight on the item because the goal of government agencies is to collaborate amongst the agencies and the residents. And this ordinance does neither. The just presentation I heard about that you just said it does not go anywhere near the depth of all the legalese and the scope of the ordinance that you would actually be voting on. The goal of the board and government agencies is to problem solve, focusing first on the immediate problems, the short-term problems, which is the leakage of raw sewage, and then to focus on long-term problem solving, where we're collaborating together to figure out a solution that, works together. So it's up to you, the board members, to stand up now and shift the focus to the problem solving and collaborating. And this ordinance does not represent any of those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Let's go to someone here in the boardroom, Alan Moss. If Alan could come in. Yes,
If there's a weird echo problem.
yeah, Alan, if you could come to the mic, that way people online can hear you as well.
At the moment, I'm not speaking pro or con on what's before you. I had questions from reading the staff report, which I think need interpretation. And so I just wanted to ask a couple questions on that. First, the phrase hazard area is used in the report, and I can't find that it's defined anywhere, and I like a definition of what the hazard area is. Is there someone that can answer that question?
It's the geotechnical hazard area unit. Yeah.
The word, the
Well,
phrase
There was a map, there was a
hazard
map
area.
at some point, right?
Yeah, we're gonna receive comment, and we'll try to address some questions after all of public comment.
Okay, so I won't get an answer to that.
We're not gonna do back and forth tonight, no.
Well, when will I get an answer to that? Because I don't think you can intelligently address this issue without understanding the terms and the language that's used in this agenda item, how it's explained. So,
Just
that's the first
to that,
one.
just to that point, Alan, in tonight's staff report, there's an attached documents from 1980 county geotechnical report.
I'm well familiar with it.
And that uses the term, the geological hazard area. It has maps, and I suspect, we can check with staff, but I suspect that's what we're talking about.
And will I be informed once you talk to staff? I don't know, I mean, I don't know how else to do this. So,
Clemens, if you're willing.
Yeah, this is part of the staff report. This is attachment A that we've shown before here. So this is the 1980 geotech hazard zone declaration from Sanitary County.
so the term hazard area comes from that 1980 report. And encompasses just that area, as denoted there.
It comes from the county zoning regulations and the general plan. That's where it comes from, and this area is zoned by the county as a geological hazards area. You can go to the county and look up their zoning regulations.
Here, you can borrow my copy for at least for a while. And I just got it.
I've got things. Secondly, it's my understanding that the county told Montara Water and Sanitary District at the time of the breaks that has initiated all this, that they were not going to issue any new encroachment permits or any repair. Can somebody confirm or deny that? And that denial of the issuance of any further encroachment permits created this emergency to where we are today.
So I just stated in my staff report that we now have confirmation that San Mateo County will issue encroachment permits for further emergency repairs.
But prior to now, they told you that they were not going to issue any more encroachment
I think-
permits.
Alan,
This is
we're
the
gonna
public-
go back to taking public comment.
Comment?
If you want to treat this as a deposition, that's a different process. We are well past 3 minutes at this time, so I'm gonna ask if you could get to the comment.
I don't have any comments on that because I can't understand what's being put forward without any clarity. And I don't know how else to get clarity. I'm not trying to take a deposition. I'm trying to understand the words that are used in the report. And I don't think that it is suitable to not be, for members of the public to not be able to understand the terms that are used in the report. So, I mean, we're here in an emergency situation. And I was told that the county told you not, they weren't going to issue any more encroachment permits. And therefore that led to the diversion that has happened over the last couple of weeks. I think that's a member of public.
I've heard similar things, but what can we say now about that? There's a lot of people who want to talk. That's an important issue, but we can't do it.
I'm gonna say that as we considered the emergency, a good part of that was about unlocking the ability to spend monies by using a short-circuited process that didn't require the lengthy going out to bid and so forth. So I think that might be a bit reductive in trying to go where you're going with that. That's my opinion.
I'm actually not going anywhere with it except to find out if that's a true statement or not.
Well, we had
Because I
this
was
discussion
directly
here,
told-
we had this discussion here in a board meeting about why we needed the emergency. We had a lengthy presentation, we had lots of back and forth on that. how we got here is, it's in our minutes. We've got videos online if you like. So we can try to give some short answers, but we're now well out of time.
Would it be acceptable to submit written questions to the board?
It's always you're always, sure, you can do that. I'm not sure what we can promise to get, to respond, but that- all right, let's go to someone on Zoom. Diane, you're next.
I think you said me, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Please go ahead. Diane.
Okay. So, couple of comments. The first one is, since this issue is so critical for the people who live in Seal Cove, and I'm one of them, it seems like there would be a better way of notifying this community directly about this topic coming up in meetings, as opposed to having us be required to check the website for the board or for the district, I should say. I would see it as something like when we get notifications that somebody's going to build in our neighborhoods, we get a notification if we're within a certain distance. And I would recommend that you reach out to those people who are contracted to have service in the Seal Cove area in some more direct way, email or whatever. My second comment is, when your board attorney here was talking about how things pertained to particular districts and disqualifying Sid Young from voting in this instance, I would say there are also particular issues that pertain to different parts of the Seal Cove area, and it has been defined in 3 different zones previously, and yet this ordinance and the exhibit attached to it relate to the entire Seal Cove area. And I would like somebody to revisit that, and you should look at whether there are some areas that should be treated differently from others. And my third comment would be the reason for putting this emergency ordinance together to begin with was that we needed more data. Since that time, there have been a couple of houses yellow tagged, there's been a house red tagged. There are decisions being made on the county level about what should or shouldn't be permitted to exist. I'm fine with making those decisions, but I think if we need more data, then we should get the data before we make those decisions. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we'll go to Andrew Boston. Andrew, if you could come in, please.
I'm gonna be a minute. I'm out at the car with the kids. They were being loud in the hallway. Can you give you a turn? Thank you.
Yeah, that works. Thank you. Do you want to go ahead, Andrew?
Yeah, Andrew Corcoran, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Andrew Boston is I didn't understand if he was going to talk to us from the car or if he was going to come in later on it.
Oh, I'm happy to talk. I'm in the parking lot. We're having a moment. So, let me give me 1 second, okay? I would go with someone else right now. Sorry about this.
All right, we'll roll with that. Andrew Corcoran, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I'm happy to go. I'm a neighbor of Andrew on La Grande. There's no seismic activity or coastal erosion that's causing land movement on La Grande, only slippage. So I have a question. On March the 15th, there was a massive water leak on San Lucas that we have a video of, shortly after which sinkholes were reported, and there seems to be a sinkhole on the video. And so my first question is, to what extent do water leaks cause sinkholes and land slippage? I'll move on to my second question. I just want to record that we understand that there is an emergency and preventing new permits does seem to make sense. And thank you, Clemens, for the meeting this week about the water supply. At the same time, we really hope that you continue to do what you can to maintain, repair, or re-engineer sewage solutions, as well as the water supply. And we think it's critical that you not abandon houses. And given the wide, unspecific ordinance gives full grant to abandon all houses, we ask that you be much more specific in the ordinance about what you're trying to abandon.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Okay. I suspect we'll come back to Andrew Boston when the excitement is settled down outside. For those of you who can't see, oh, here he comes.
I'm here.
All right.
The
Great.
little one's in the toe.
All right.
Calm down.
If you come to the mic,
Yeah,
that way we
of
can get
course.
you on the thing. That'd be great.
Hey guys, thanks for having me again. We good? Great. Yeah, we're on day 18 of trying to organize the sewage cleanup on our street. Where our kids play and where people walk by on the coast trail. We're out there doing what used to be your job. We're organizing permits. We're trying to figure out how to safely dig into public roads because no one else will right now. Although it does appear to be a health and safety hazard, using the words in the ordinance that was passed. And yet there's no overground water activity. There doesn't seem to be many updates, and we're continuing to call this an emergency. But the only emergency I see here is how quickly we're moving to abandon aging, poorly maintained, and in some cases badly designed infrastructure that was installed last year in terms of the types of pipes put in. And we're pushing the consequences onto residents. And we have someone come out weekly to measure landslide movement, just waiting for the moment to be blamed that this is on us. Doesn't feel like leadership, and it doesn't really feel like the society, like a really great society I want to live in. Our children are getting sick, our coastal trail visitors are walking past sewage, and it feels like public health neglect in some ways. And it will only get worse if we abandon more pipes. Like sewage has to go somewhere. And if you expect the residents to deal with it every time, there will be more accidents. It's not their day jobs, and it's very much not my day job as I figure this out. So, yeah, I cannot handle critical sanitation work. I'm doing my best, but it is hard. So, as the infrastructure kind of shifts and what I believe to be 50-year-old infrastructure kind of starts to get hit its useful life, I hope we can solve this together and work together to solve it. But for now, I really like to see a solution long term, and would really like to find a way to fix sewage without having residents have to run their own water sewer district. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next online, Richard Tabor. If you could unmute, Richard. Richard, you're still on mute.
Is that
Okay, there
better?
you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I had to do that. So a neighbor of mine wanted to come, Sabrina Schultz, and she wrote to me the following. I'm speaking on behalf of several Seal Cove residents who aren't sure where things stand. Can the district or county clarify which homes have been officially red or yellow tagged? Also, will there be a public map or notice so that residents know what areas are affected and why? Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty, and it would really help the community to have clear and consistent updates. What I found in reading the ordinance is that it was all very vague, and so it wasn't an original. And I'd much rather see something that defines how things stand on the 3 zones that we currently have, Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 3. And while that may not be complete, at least that would at least give us a sense as to the fact that the whole area is not, while it's all a geological area in terms of some severity and urgency. I'd like to see more detail on that level, and what someone else was saying about communication before there's a vote on the ordinance. If the ordinance is only going to extend what you did in the initial one, that would be fine. But it seems that they added some more vague wording that gives them more carte blanche to decide what to do. So that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to someone here in the boardroom, Nayang Susie Kim, if you could come in, please.
Oh,
Hi. Hi.
there has been a lot of talk about the vagueness of how the ordinance has been worded. So I would like to put this on record. Restrict or discontinue service, including abandonment of district facilities within the Seal Cove area in the name of protecting public health. We have been living, now it's day 18. Day 18, 1-8. We've been living with raw sewage leak on our street. Raya, she is 3 years old. We had to rush her to urgent care for vomiting, fever, and diarrhea. This is public health hazard. You cannot pass this emergency ordinance in the name of protecting public health while you have the residents sick from the raw sewage running on the street. I'm here to oppose the emergency ordinance because it gives no specification, no specific details. It's an unchecked power to Montara Water District to discontinue service as they see fit. That is not how government should work. There is due process. There is neighborhood input. There should be legal way to do this instead of just sweeping it under the rug with emergency ordinance. I'm begging you for help. When you vote for this ordinance, think about Raya. Look at her. Look at her. President Scott, Honorable Member Catherine, Honorable Director Pete. Remember that when you vote for this ordinance, you have public health on your hand. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
May I say a brief thing at this time?
No, we're gonna get all the way through and then we'll go to the board discussion after the public hearings closed.
Everyone else got the back and forth. I would like to hear it.
No, I'm actually trying to not have the back and forth and had to take some effort to just keep it. I've still got speaker slips. I've still got people online. We're gonna keep going.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go. Let's go say bye. Say thank you.
Tickets.
All right, let's go to Lana Wick, please.
Thank you. I'm Lana. I'm also neighbor of Susie and Andrew, just on the other side of their house. And I am totally not understanding the lack of help for the raw sewage on our street. And now we've got one sick child from that sewage. And so we need help. We need direction. Like, let's say it ends up that it is on us to fix whatever, but we're not experts in engineering sewage. I mean, could you at least give us an idea what to do, who to contact? I mean, I contacted Sam this week and they said Montara Water said they are not allowed to help us. And so what are we supposed to do while this sewage leak continues? That's my point, just supporting Andrew and Susie and the members on our street. I do appreciate everything the board is doing. Clemens, I know you're overloaded with this emergency, but we need help. We need direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to someone here in the building. Kate Broderick, please. Hi, good. Come to the microphone.
Okay. Hi, thank you. I'm Kate Broderick and I live in Seal Cove. I actually grew up there and moved back home to raise my own family. We live in a multi-generational family home with my dad, and so this community is really special to me. I'm really genuinely confused on the text in the ordinance. So I find it specifically in section 2 very vague and ambiguous. And if you wouldn't mind, just for the benefit of some people who may have not had the wherewithal to kind of read through the text of the ordinance, I'd like to just read the part that's really confusing. So it says effective immediately that the Montara Water and Sanitary District shall not accept applications for service nor issue new water or sewer permits for properties located within the area, as defined in Exhibit A, which is just like a picture of a scribble of Seal Cove from 1980, which is Exhibit A. Nor allow the reactivation or inactive service or other actions in the opinion of the district's general manager and or the district's water and sewer engineers are necessary to protect the district's critical infrastructure, including the imposition of service conditions related to both district-owned facilities and privately owned facilities, and that the district is not responsible for maintenance or private sewer pumps or laterals accepting therefrom, repairs or replacement necessary to prevent imminent health and safety hazards. I mean, to me, all that means is that the general manager and district water, sewer, and engineers have complete power to decide when to revoke or abandon houses and access to sewer and water. To me, that seems really vague and ambiguous and a full entitlement to power that you shouldn't have. We need more clear guidance on when and where you're going to revoke access to sewer and water and under what conditions, not just blanket power granted to the district manager. That seems too much. So I urge you to vote no until those ambiguities can be cleared up. We need clear criteria to understand what you're looking at before you make these kind of detrimental decisions to people's homes where they live with their families. This is really detrimental to us. Okay, 2 general comments. I had to rely on word of mouth. I had no idea about this meeting until halfway through my workday today. I shouldn't have to. I need written notification sent to my home like we do for like building new homes or some other system of notification. This is insufficient. I shouldn't have to rely on my neighbors to let me know through text threats. That's crazy. We need clear and consistent communication. I am really lost in how you guys come to these decisions when the board meetings are set and how you're going to make these determinations on these houses, which houses were yellow tagged, who were red tagged, and under what conditions. If you communicate that to the rest of the neighborhood, I think that would curb a lot of anxiety and uncertainty that we're all having. Lastly, thank you so much for the service that you've given to the community. We really do appreciate everything that you guys do. I know that this is a very thankless job, so I appreciate everything that you're doing, and thank you for listening to everybody tonight. But I strongly encourage you, please don't abandon us. Thanks.
Okay,
What's your name?
thank you.
Kate.
President Boyd, if I could just make a clarification, and I'm not, maybe it was made earlier, but MWSD is not red tagging or yellow tagging any homes. We don't have the ability to do that. That is the county that's doing that.
Thank you for that
Yes.
clarification. All right, next, hand online, Thomas Kennedy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
You guys hear me?
yes, we can.
Okay, hi. I just want to, I'm just kind of stressing what everyone else is saying. I'll start with the communication that Kate said really well. I'm a neighbor in Seal Cove, and I haven't got anything from you guys. Every couple of months or a couple times a week, you guys knock on my door and say my water is going to go out for a while, and it comes back on. But that's all I get. So communication would be better, and I agree with Kate on that one. Um, in regards to the history of Seal Cove and the leaks and that, I think you guys got to really look at that. I'm not sure it's seismic. I think I've heard it's mostly landslides, and if it's all coming, sliding out from underneath our streets, it's kind of where the water is. So I'm not sure if it's drainage or whatnot. You guys provide the service. You guys do it well. As long as I keep having sewer and water, I'm not going to be abandoned. I'd be really appreciated. But I would appreciate that you hold off on giving you guys more control and power to just arbitrarily pick which houses you do and do not want to support until we understand, the problem and how you're going to fix it. And that's all I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Okay, let's go to a person here in the building, Bethany Berkowitz, please. Hi. Oh, hi.
Hi.
Haven't seen you in a long time.
I know. Thanks for having us here tonight, and thank you for listening to all the comments. I too do not support approving this ordinance tonight without more contributions from the Seal Code neighbors and more clarity on the ordinance, what it restricts, who's expected to receive abandonment issuances, and what can we expect to be repaired moving forward. I think that withholding repairs of critical infrastructure is a public safety hazard. And we have those who are in immediate need of such repairs. There's a lack of clarity in the ordinance that I read that, where are the service lines going to be abandoned? And how can the county support a long-term infrastructure improvement to our neighborhood? What kind of data do they need to make those decisions? We haven't seen any new concrete findings since the 1980s. And it feels like basing our decisions now on that data is not a wise process. I echo the Boston's cry for help. I echo Diane's call for more clarity. I think that we also need to ask, are we going to continue issuing building permits? There are houses still going up in the neighborhood. What can those new neighbors expect? I've been a Seal Cove resident since a child. I've been a large part of this community. I've seen many of you around town. I really just want to impose on you personally, but also as a neighbor, please do not pass this ordinance tonight. We need your help now. We need your guidance on how to solve this problem. And it doesn't feel like we're getting that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Another point of clarification, the district does not issue building permits, the county does.
Okay. See, next online, Betsy?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Thank you for letting me speak. I just wanted to say, I know that in the past, there were 25 homes on Valamar Street that had a problem with, there was originally a sewer line that ran along the front of the bluffs there. And I guess, I'm not sure when this happened, but there was a problem with that sewer line. And you were able to install new sewer line on the street itself. And so you were able to help that part of Moss Beach. So I don't understand why you are not dealing with this problem on LeGrand, because it's a similar situation, where there's, obviously a problem with the sewer line. And it doesn't seem right or fair to abandon these residents, because it's not their fault of what has been happening. I mean, we're dealing with climate change, we're dealing with more rain. And so it's obvious when there is more fluid running through, from rain or water lines rupturing, which happened on San Lucas, that it exasperates the slippage of the bluffs. So allowing that sewer line to continue to leak only adds more fuel to the fire of the slippage of that area. And I remember when there was that greenhouse on San Lucas, between San Lucas and La Grande, that was sitting up on stilts, and they were in a battle with the county and the water department on who was responsible for, the slippage in that area. And that home was eventually demolished. Over this same sort of issue where there was slippage. Was it a broken water line or sewer line, or was it the slippage of the bluffs? I think it's a combination of both. But it's obvious when we allow a broken line to continue, it makes the matter worse. Because I walk on San Lucas usually every week and walk along Ocean Boulevard. And so when that rupture happened in March, it was amazing how quickly that road just deteriorated from Del Mar to Ocean Boulevard. So I just feel that that the residents of La Grande are being not being well represented. They're being abandoned. But it doesn't just affect them, it affects our entire neighborhood, because it just, like I said, it exasperates the problem and it needs to be addressed. And I don't feel that, you're putting it on them to figure out this problem. Well, you guys are the expert. They pay taxes just like the rest of us. And those taxes are supposed to pay for our services. So I just don't want you to vote. I don't want this ordinance to pass tonight. I think we need more time, and our Seal Cove neighborhood needs to have we need to meet together with this department, and to have another meeting in which we can all be present. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's go to Larry Baker here in the building.
Good evening. One point of clarification, the county issues building permits, but they will not issue a building permit until MWSD has issued a sewer permit. Also, I'd like to point out the reason I had to come here tonight is I tried to do this last time and ended up going home using Zoom for the meeting, and was completely unable to communicate with people here. It was telling me that I was being blocked from raising my hand and enabling my microphone by somebody in control of the meeting. So I do not consider this a reasonable alternative. I agree with Sabrina Brennan. This is not meaningful participation. You guys should rent another space. There's places around here to do that when you're going to have meetings where there's going to be obvious participation by a lot of people. Well, I think you're obliged to provide what the lawyer said is to provide meaningful participation. This is not it. My comments. I do not support the ordinance as it's currently written. I agree you need emergency authority to enable things that can bypass and speed up some things, but this is not it. First of all, let me tell you about some typos. There are several occurrences where somebody's mistyped geotechnical in bold on just about every page. It says geotechnical. Somebody needs to proofread this. On page 1 in the third whereas, it says the 1980 study identified 4 geotechnical zones. The study identified 3. It says actually geotech zones. It uses a colloquial term that doesn't occur. There are 3 geotechnical hazard zones. So somebody needs to proofread that. Your terminology, I agree completely with one of the earlier speakers. You've defined something, or you're using some term called Seal Cove Critical Geotechnical Hazards Area. You never define what that actually means. It doesn't appear anywhere on the county. What do you mean by critical? That word didn't appear at all in any of the county zoning regs. The county has a Seal Cove Geotechnical Hazards map, which defines the boundary of the Seal Cove area and divides that into 3 geotechnical hazard zones. Zone 3 in the county map is described to include all lands located, located outside of the areas affected by active or potential landslides. I think that's important here when somebody was talking about distinguishing between the portions of the area in Seal Cove that really should be covered by this ordinance. Zone 3 should not be included in the scope of this ordinance. The other zones, I think, should be handled on a case-by-case basis, not this blanket one-size-fits-all giving, a moratorium on anybody, no matter what their circumstances actually are. I think you need to stay focused on the immediate problem area, which is where there is active landsliding. The scope of the proposed ordinance is too broad, and it restricts areas that are not subject to landsliding. We need to manage the problem with mitigation measures. This is going to take more than just MWSD. MWSD needs to be our advocate on this, which is one of the things that's mentioned in the ordinance, which I do applaud. But we need to do things such as dewatering and diversion of surface runoff to prevent ponding and soil saturation. And page 3 is where you describe the things that you would be looking into in the interim for these mitigation measures. I applaud that too. That should be done. I think you should leave the discussion of the earthquake fault out of this. It is not moving. It hasn't moved in hundreds of years. There's mention of numerous branch lines. Those have been removed from the Alcos Priolo maps. They used to be there. I think that's an irrelevant statement, and I don't think it has any scientific merit. I hope that somebody is trying to pursue obtaining grant money, FEMA money. There's a huge landslide, the largest block slide in the country down in Los Angeles. That city got $23.3 million from a FEMA grant to mitigate that slide. I understand there was some kind of grant money maybe for that relocation of the sewer lateral on Ballamar. That's the kind of thing we need, if not directly by an application from MWSD advocating the county to apply for grant funds for mitigation. That's what's got to be done here to help deal with the problem. Getting rid of the water is important. And when there are breaks in the roads, that will lead to cavities that will then channel the water right down into the soil. Those need to be dealt with immediately to divert the water and get it off the bluffs. Riprap on the coast, on the cliffs is not likely to be a viable solution. You might know that the Coastal Commission has put a short leash on Pacifica for their similar mitigation efforts. I don't know that that's going to ever be possible without somebody suing the Coastal Commission, because it seems to me that's somewhat of a taking and people need to be made whole. I've been assembling, and I've passed on to Clemens a lot of information about the geologic hazards in the area, and I'm continuing to retrieve more of that information. I'll be glad to provide it to Clemens and to his geologic consultant. And I do want to make sure that the county gets a hold of that. I gave it to him about 10 years ago. And as you all know, they're geotechnical report is vastly outdated from 1980. I hope whoever they're having do the geohazards report this time does a little bit better job than the outfit did in 1980. But certainly, I think the county has been derelict in, completely ignoring the work that's been done since then. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Just a very brief shout out to Larry. He's done an excellent job in sharing with us a very comprehensive list of documentation that is available about Seal Cove going back, as far as there was investigations. And so again, Larry has done a tremendous job in helping us inform about what's going on. Thank you, Larry.
You bet. Thank you. Thank you, Connor.
All right. Okay, I have no more speaker slips. If there are slips yet to come, please get them in here. And let's go to the next online, Patty Lawrenson, please.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. My name is Patty Lawrenson, and I live in Seal Cove. I would just like to start with the fact that Seal Cove is both part of the public coastal trail and the Fitzgerald Marine Reserve. Our neighborhood regularly serves the general public as a pathway to the Pillar Point trails overlooking Mavericks. So these issues we are discussing impact far more than just a few homeowners. The county, SAM, and MWSD has delayed repairing failing infrastructure, citing classification disputes, budget shortfalls, and Prop 218 restrictions. I would like to understand on what grounds an MWSD can abandon its service contract with SAM and deem this infrastructure suddenly a responsibility of the private residents without proper consultation. That does not seem fair or reasonable. I won't attempt to communicate the amount of stress this has caused the local taxpaying residents. Sewage is at risk of discharging into the surrounding coastal bluff, seepage areas, and the Pacific Ocean. This poses an imminent threat to the Fitzgerald Marine Reserve's protected intertidal habitats. This situation may violate the Clean Water Act, the California Ocean Plan, and the California Coastal Act. I question how the abandonment of our infrastructure can possibly benefit public health and safety. I respectfully request that you coordinate with the necessary agencies and take appropriate enforcement action with the county to repair the roads and halt further contamination and compel responsible agencies to repair the system immediately. Requests for county repairs from local residents, and there have been multiple, have gone completely unanswered. We would like your support in pressing the county for support of our roads. There was, in our last board meeting that I listened to, an estimate of a $3 million sewer repair. There are resources worth investigating for financial support. I recommend that the collective agencies review emergency and resiliency funding from the state or federal resources, and I'll give you a list. There's 4. The Cal OES Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, the FEMA Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, otherwise known as BRIC, the State Coastal Conservancy Grants, and the California Climate Resiliency Programs. I feel this is a very solvable problem. I think we can all work together to find a resolution. I urge you to vote no tonight so that we can have the interagency meeting that Supervisor Mueller is working on scheduling. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Greg Diegas.
Hi, I'm going to say something a little different, but I'm going to offer some background for the board and the residents from my work when I was on the Mid-Coast Community Council. The first thing that I would say to the board is the opposition to this ordinance, to me, seems misguided, but it would be useful to perhaps have legal counsel explain to folks. As I understand this ordinance, it helps by allowing funds to be mobilized, which otherwise would take much longer. If this ordinance is granting new powers, then I could understand why the residents would be concerned. But I believe it's just restating existing law. So I would ask that as the board considers communications going forward, it clarify that for the people here. Second thing, just as a point of fact, when I was studying some of the developments on our area on the MCC, I spoke off the record with a California state geologist about the earthquake faults that run here and up through Moss Beach. And I can tell you what he told me, that he is assigned to decide whether or not to reactivate those faults. So right now they're classified as dormant, but it's unclear whether they will remain that way. I'm also the primary author of the MCC Stormwater Report. And as part of that report, I toured Seal Cove 3 times, twice with residents and once with a USGS geologist. And I wrote a chapter in that report citing the fact that the county has not created and maintained stormwater management, as it is not done through our whole region. And the conclusion of the people I talked to was that while the slippage of the landmass there is not caused directly by stormwater, it's a geological issue, it is exacerbated or accelerated by unmanaged stormwater. And so to me, that relates to the lack of county required stormwater facilities. In fact, I think the threat of legal action may be paralyzing a lot of explanations here. I see that MWSD needs to play nice with the county in order to get funding and cooperation, even while their failure to create stormwater management and their delays in allowing the district to take action on the roads may be contributing to this ongoing problem. But I'm wondering if it's impossible for you to say that in public because you need their help. So I think you're in a tough spot. I would encourage the residents to form a local group to lobby with the county, as we did in Montara Moss Beach for the Red Alert Montara Moss Beach wildfire action we're requesting on the Caltrans bypass. Having a formed group has enabled us to get audiences with Representative Berman, communicate with Senator Becker, get letters out of Supervisor Mueller. I'm glad to hear that they have talked to Mueller apparently, and he is going to organize a meeting. I do think that meeting is necessary. And finally, I want to bring up a new topic, which is a theme of mine going back a decade since I first moved here, in large part because this district had created a safe water source. I have been concerned about the financial condition of the district for some time. And I don't have a current analysis. You've seen in the past, I've done a financial model of the district. I've produced analyses showing that you didn't have adequate reserves by my measures and what those measures were. And I'm just concerned that the financial stress this district faces from a potential $3 million liability on all the rest of the ratepayers. So I'm requesting that the district take some steps to do an analysis of the fiscal condition, because I think there's a lot more than just Seal Cove that's going to be affected by this emergency. Thanks for your time.
All right, Greg, thank you. All right, I see no more hands. I see no more speaker slips.
I'm trying to raise my hand. I can't get my hand up.
Sure. Dennis, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, thanks very much. I'm sorry. I had it up a minute and then it went away. So I would like to ask that you vote this down for a couple of different reasons. But the first one is we're basing a lot of the information on a 45-year-old report. And if that is in fact the case, there's no reason to jump ahead and do it so quickly now. Yes, we're experiencing erosion. Yes, it's been moving, but it's not opening up and swallowing up anybody. So on the first emergency meeting, it was because the county wouldn't grant permits. I met with Ray Mueller a couple of days after that. He said that was a miscommunication and a misinterpretation. It was cleared up. Okay, so that piece goes away. Now, MWSD repaired a couple of streets, did a great job. Where's the emergency? For 45 years, we've been living with it. Okay, somebody else can answer that. I got to get off because I want to stay within my 3 minutes, but some of us aren't. If in fact, after 45 years, it's declared an emergency, when is it resolved? I mean, we're seeing movement. We're going to see movement. We can't stop the movement. Dewatering, there are some things that will slow it down. And the last thing I want to say is I really hope that little girl around the corner gets better. They aren't professional construction underground people. And to turn a blind eye to them and at least not give them direction, or I got an idea. Why don't you guys fix it and send them a bill? I'm sure they'd be happy to pay for it, and then make the changes that need to be changed. If this gets worse, I hope you sleep well at night, because I know I wouldn't if I was sitting in your seat. We're looking for you for leadership. We're looking to you for direction. And I can't see it from my house. In closing, in front of my house, there was an emergency repair. Clemens, you're aware of it, back in December. They threw emergency patch in there. They haven't come back and repaired it. And every vehicle coming in and out of Seal Cove goes over that emergency repair. Take a look at it when you're out here the next time and compare it to the work that was done down the street. I didn't complain right away. I don't need to complain, but I'm saying all the vehicles are going over that, bam, 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 all the time. So with that, I'm closed. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, you know, you got a tough job, but from where I'm sitting, I don't understand some of the decisions and some of the need to go so fast when we've been living with it for so long. Thank you very much. I'm out.
All right, thank you. I see another hand, Nadine Silverman.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm going to keep this really short. I'm a Seal Cove resident, and a lot of my neighbors that have spoken are far more eloquent and articulate than I am and have made amazing points. But I just urge you to please vote no, and to really think about how you would vote if you were a resident experiencing what's happening right now on that street. Nayang, I am so sorry if you're still listening. I had no idea that your daughters were sick. That just breaks my heart. So please, I urge you not to abandon this community and to please think about how you're going to vote and how your vote is going to impact us. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, I think we've heard from all who have asked to speak on this topic. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
I move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the public hearing is closed. Let's go to board discussion with staff.
I've got a list of things I'd like to say fresh on off that one.
I see Clemens has his hand up, maybe.
Let's start with Clemens.
Yeah, thank you very much. So first, I wanted to really thank everybody for coming here tonight and sharing their thoughts with us. If you have not been able to participate in the prior meetings where there was a lot of information shared about what's going on, I encourage you to go to our website. We have a tab dedicated to the Seal Cove, and it also contains all the letters that were sent to the residents out there. So please read through that. I want to point everybody particularly actually to Coastside Buzz. Michelle has posted an excellent compilation of statements from various agencies about the current emergency. I think there is a lot to be learned for everyone can benefit to understand a little bit more why this action that we're asking the board to take tonight is protecting you as Seal Cove residents and helping to resolve this situation. We have been very actively worked with San Mateo County, as I mentioned, and have would like all of your support, and that is what I'm hearing, to initiate a meeting through Supervisor Mueller that brings all the stakeholders out. Those are, of course, the Montara Water and Sanitary District, but also the Planning and Building Department, in as well as the roads department, public works department. I think PG&E needs to be there, and in particularly the coastside fire protection district, I think have all an interest, and this is really a group that needs to work together with you as residences. So please support us in the request for such a meeting. So again, I think Coastside Plus has done a tremendous job. I fully support that the final decisions on the approach need to have the best data that is available. So we will now see an update to the study and hopefully get even before that some indications from San Mateo County on their plans, what might come out of an update of this study. So I'm very hopeful that through this process, we can include this information. Now, I can tell you, while we're calling this an emergency and we are working as fast as possible, this is going to take a lot longer than the coming 2 months, for sure. There is a lot that needs to be looked at, considered. We're here at the very, very beginning and are sharing everything we know so far with you. Hopefully come to a conclusion that is best for the entire district. Just pointing out that we are representing, of course, all residents within Montara and Moss Beach, and having to deal now with a situation that is affecting 17 residences. Very much so, considers also an approach where we have to look at, what are the right steps for the entire community. Thank you.
All right,
I have a question.
one question. Well, let's just start with the one question, is what I mean.
Actually, it's a question for Christine. Lots of folks have been recommending that we vote against this ordinance. Staff recommends that we vote for it. Christine, could you talk about why we should vote for it and why we should vote against it?
Sure. Thank you, Director Slater-Carter. I think one of the primary reasons to vote for it is without a temporary suspension, we'd be required to issue permits in potentially unsafe areas that are currently in an active geologic zone and unpredictable. I think it protects the district and the owners if we're forced to issue a permit without the protection of a clearly established emergency situation and hazards in the area. And this comes from the county's general plan and the hazards policies that it's adopted for the area out here, especially the coastal areas. There's public and environmental risks that increase, especially if water line and sewer line fail and cause more sewage spills. I mean, we need to be out there and have the tools to not only prevent, but possibly, retreat infrastructure, put it somewhere else, like I think we're attempting to do in some instances. Continued service certainly could subject the district to inverse condemnation claims. If the infrastructure fails that we've been required to place or issue a permit for and damages someone's property. We could face regulatory enforcement penalties if we are permitting systems out there and fixing them and adding them or whatever we need to do contribute to environmental harm. You know, without an urgency ordinance and without the emergency leverage, we have very limited ability to deny connections or impose safety restrictions that we feel are necessary to protect our system. So for those reasons, I think it's important that the board consider adopting it. If there's some comments, I believe, about wording being ambiguous, I don't agree, but I'm happy to re-look at it. But I think it's fairly clear and it's grounded in the district's statutory authority under the Health and Safety Code, under the Water Code, to protect the public health and safety and the district system from hazards that clearly, you know, are active at this point. I mean, the duty of the district is to protect its system, and that duty is based on our district engineers and our district managers' expertise in making those determinations.
If I just can add something to this, you know, the emergency declaration is really a first step to address the problem. And particularly, it is the first step to getting other agencies to do the same step. Meaning, if I encourage everyone that is participating tonight to actually not only encourage our board to vote yes on this, but also please go to the Board of Supervisors and ask them to take exactly that same step to declare an emergency about the Seal Cove landslide issues, so that the county also can support us in further financing, or, for example, we've heard a number of people speaking about the need for stormwater improvements. So all of these things need to be addressed and can best be addressed to acknowledge the emergency that it really is. Just briefly, I wanted to say about why is this affecting all three areas that are defined in this 1980 study. And that is on, and particularly I heard concerns about why are you not issuing permits in those areas? What we do to our water and sewer system out there to now protect the residents, you know, are essentially, we're looking to protect all Seal Cove residents. We're looking to protect all Montara Water and Sanitary District residents. These systems are connected. If we do make changes in Seal Cove, this affects all of Seal Cove. And that is why there is a current permitting stop that allows us to understand what is the solution going to be, what is San Mateo County's suggestion to issue permits going forward in this area. And we hopefully can resolve that aspect rather quickly. And I agree there should be various differences between zones. But again, we can't speak about this at this point, except that all of Seal Cove is affected through the changes to the water and sewer system.
I have a follow-up with that, Christine and Clemens. I heard folks say we should get the work done yesterday, or even 20 days ago. I've heard people say, yeah, what's the rush? We've lived with it for quite a while. My question is, what problems and if any, or advantages will be with delaying the adoption of this urgency ordinance?
Well, I don't see really any, because all of the advantages that we just listed are coming through the emergency declaration. So I don't see why, how a delay can benefit in this. For example, on the financing front, we are very actively looking at, ways to pay for the changes that are needed for those residences in the affected area, right? I mean, there is, I think, very much a need to, protect everyone from, severe costs that we're looking at to provide service for these 17 homes that are immediately affected.
So what I hear you saying is that if we pass this ordinance, it is a lever to getting other agencies, the county and other state agencies, and even regulatory agencies to seek to solve the problem rather than to just institute fines and penalties and other kinds of punitive decisions.
Yeah.
So it is a way of helping everyone. This is going to be a long process, and we have to follow the appropriate steps with each agency. And my understanding from having worked on the Mid-Coast Community Council on planning and zoning issues for 8 years, and for arguing and helping other people with these issues. The county has its set of requirements. We have our set, and we are totally independent districts, and our functions don't overlap much. And we also need the state. I will say the original, or the first geologic report, which I haven't had time to go to Stanford or figure out how to get to Stanford to look for it, was in the early 70s. And that was when the county read it and said, we are not going to issue building permits out there. There might have been one or a couple houses out there, but not as many as there are now. They were sued for property taking, and so they decided to initiate allowing building permits, but with earthquake fault exploration on every lot. Sometimes the house designs needed to be refigured so that they could not be on top of earthquake faults, but earthquake faults are active and changing. And we put in the assessment district in the 1980s, was it 1983? I'm not sure on that. It was the early 80s.
83.
83, and that's when we started putting the pipes in. So yes, the pipes are old, but we've been replacing and fixing them every time they break, and they generally, I think it will be interesting. We have a hydrogeologist that we're working with, who was one of the top agencies who knows the hydrology and geology characteristics of the San Mateo County coast, like just about no one else. And we are consulting with them on a regular basis, as well as with our engineer who works all over the coastal areas and is also very familiar with this. But that said, if we're going to get anything done with help from other agencies, it's what I'm hearing you say is it's better that we pass this tonight and keep working with the county and with all of the other regulatory and funding agencies that we can. If we're looking for grants, if we don't have urgency, they're going to go to somebody else who has a more urgent situation. So I'm going to listen to the other questions, but I want to get this fix happening as soon as possible with as much cooperation from other governing and regulatory agencies that we can get. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah. Wow, this was quite a set of speeches and passions. And I noticed a bunch of resonances, both with my understanding of what's actually going on and with the deep concerns of the people who live in Seal Cove. So the first word to come up the most is abandoned. I certainly have not ever voted in any way to abandon anyone. Reason I did roughly, and I'll elaborate in a minute, is this ordinance seems the best way to do something fast. And I'll get back to that. But the other thing is the idea of a lack of clarity. And unfortunately, that is partly our situation. We're in a 100-year-old building, which is practically the only one that we're even legally allowed to have meetings in for various jurisdictional reasons. And we started up in COVID so that we couldn't have people. So the fact that we can't have public meetings makes it more difficult to do, or rather they're in person, everybody in the same room meeting, makes it more difficult. And furthermore, the fact that this is a public sort of speech making meeting means we can't go back and forth and have questions. There were several speakers where I wanted to just say 30 seconds worth of answering the question, but this format doesn't allow it, yet it needs to happen. That's a kind of clarity we can only get when we are in person without cameras and without various regulations, which means we can't have too many board members, but we still need to have those conversations. It's the only way to answer those questions. So I absolutely want more interpersonal bandwidth. Somehow Clemens is working on the room. We're working on some way of meeting in Seal Cove, I hope. Perhaps Ray Mueller can have us down in his office. But the word lack of clarity also extends to things like maps. And yes, at first the maps were left over from then. Clemens and this team is very overworked. I keep asking him for data. He doesn't have time to give me data either. Using what we have and meeting with residents, I think, is more important than essentially taking time off to, triple check proofreading on things and worry about the fine tuning of things. This is an urgent situation. They need to write a resolution which lets us do things. And so the lack of clarity comes up in a double sense. On the one hand, yes, there are examples of exactly which houses, and of course, examples of which faults and which kinds of things are going to happen. Well, that's the problem. Urgency means things change fast. We don't know where the next crack is going to be. We don't know where water or sewage is going to burble up. We don't want these things happening either. And part of our problem is that the middle of a public road is a kind of a sacred ground, and even we aren't allowed to take backhoes there without getting it blessed by other places. So absolutely, raw sewage in the street is horrible. And that's the problem with a government of checks and balances, which takes time. And that's the reason I voted for the emergency resolution. First, it frees up money that we don't have to spend months and months jumping through hoops and getting competitive bids. We can spend it now. Second, the part that people don't like, the part about the appropriation of power and things like that. Well, Clements is the technician, and his operators are the technicians we have designated to make judgments in real time about what is dangerous and what is healthy. They've been doing that for a long time. I still trust them to do that, but that means that in an emergency, they have to make a decision on the ground fast. And so, yes, it is giving them a kind of a blanket power. I don't think they're going to abuse it. But if something bursts open horribly fast, I want him to have the power to do it. If I could allow him to dig up the middle of a public road, I'd do that too. So I think that's my speech for the time.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Well, we heard a lot of comments, and I really appreciate everybody coming and sharing their thoughts. And I know that getting in front of the microphone, especially when it's really important and personal, is a real challenge, and I appreciate you stepping up to do that. I think the points I'm coming back to are the need to be able to continue to drive the collaboration and keep the urgency under this thing. Now, I mean, there doesn't have to be heavy equipment in the street every day to say that, you know, the agency is working with urgency. I've seen urgency in communication with Public Works, County Health, the supervisor, and countless staff in a variety of places. So there's a lot of activity that is going on that isn't the thing that's obvious on the street. I agree with the urgency about getting out there. I went and walked the whole of Seal Cove today a couple of times, and the ground is deforming, and this is creating issues. And I want to ask a question to Clemens. The wording in the ordinance as drafted talks about, among other things, abandonment, and we had a few people mention this. And my understanding and belief is that everything that we're doing is to first protect the public health and safety, the people, and the best we can, the investments that people have in their homes. And so the notion of abandonment, my understanding from our conversations when we've been out walking the street, is there are places where the road has deformed so much that it's not even safe to dig in it. So we need to abandon those facilities so that we can talk about where else can we go do the thing that we need to do. That's my understanding of why that wording's in there. Am I close?
So everything we're doing here tonight is to keep service to residents and to keep that service active. Yes.
So, but to do that, we need to do some things like you've been talking about, maybe relocating some services, and that may mean abandoning this
We
pipe
may
or that
abandon
pipe.
a meter location and have to relocate this meter, for example.
Yeah, I think the you know, having the examples in mind, I read that language and I wasn't too worried about it. And I appreciate the assertion, because this will go to the legislative record. The assertion is about keeping people safe and able to be in their homes to the best of our ability. Yeah. Okay, so there's another thing that I just want to be very specific about. Because the emergency has been declared, this agency has a long history of applying for and receiving grants. We're the best on the coast side for doing that. We have a long record. In fact, if you look at our item number 4 on tonight's agenda, there's a very substantial grant that has just been paid to Montara, and we've helped facilitate it for the sewer authority. So why the emergency? Part of why the emergency is when you have one, they put you in special classes for applying for grant money. So that is super important. We need to be in that declared state in order to even be eligible for applying for certain grants. I think I want to just mention I'm grateful to see that staff has been reaching out to members of the community who need to get permits. Issued permit, it helped deal with the county to make sure that they would issue their side of it so work can proceed. I know there's great concern, but I think all that has been unlocked at this point to be able to go deal with one particular situation. And more importantly, I think we've heard very clearly from the county, hey, whatever you thought the problem was with encroachment permits, that there is no problem. In fact, they used large red letters to say, please, let's help people understand those are available under emergency applications granted. So they're couching it in terms of an emergency as well. I think the others have said the things, many things that I might have. This is an enablement ordinance to allow staff to do its job, to move expeditiously, to give it some unusual powers in terms of being able to move expeditiously without some of the more time-consuming procedure that we otherwise have to go through. This agency is used to doing things that take 6 months or 18 months. When we're used to taking the time it takes to do an application to do a thing. Like if we want to do a repair in Highway 1, that's a long process, involves getting an encroachment permit from Caltrans, which is always a chore. It takes time, we know it takes time, we work that into the budget, but that's not like the active situation. There's language in the 1980 report that was prepared for the county that talked about the forces that were actively reshaping it then. And that hasn't changed. This is an active situation, but it has changed in terms of the motion of the ground that's creating more and more challenges to keep the infrastructure operational. So I want to keep the team operational. So I've taken a lot of notes to make sure that I have a chance to really take in and reflect on what's been said to us. With all of that in mind, I'm supporting the ordinance with the understanding that it's about staying busy, collaborating, bringing other people to the table. And I want to reiterate what Clemens has said. He's saying not quite the speed and urgency on the behalf of some of the people we want to get to the table. They'll respond when you reach out to them. They may not respond directly to you, but they hear it. We know they do. And if you would urge them as kindly as you can, please, let's get that meeting soon. We'll be there. We'd like to see all the agencies that we've mentioned listed to be there as well. One last thing, we talked at the last meeting about some specific ideas about the way we might reroute some water lines overland. I think it was kind of lost in some of what happened in the last meeting, but what we were bringing was something that we almost never bring that early in the design process. But we really wanted to show, in talking to staff, we really wanted to show, look, we're really working on this, so we're going to bring you our very best. And we had complaints that it wasn't further along, and it's like, but these were discussions that were happening just that day and a couple of days before. So it was fresh, but we're trying to share it because even though it's not fully formed in the way you would ordinarily expect a staff report with we're going to go out to bid for construction of this thing, we're not that far. A key element of taking design like that further is sitting down with the fire department, with the public works department, with planning and building, and maybe some others, and making sure that that plan is going to work according to their needs and regulations as well. The way we solve that is we get to the table. Clemens has been burning up the phones talking to people, but we need that collaboration. Again, we can use your help. We're going to keep at it. We're seeing a lot of movement. We're getting communication that things are happening, but your pressure's going to be helpful.
And one last.
Please.
Several people wanted more recent reports on the geologic data. I think that's a great idea. But I have looked at those reports over 70s, 80s, I think there was one in the 90s. They haven't changed a lot. The ability to gather data has become far more precise and to get far more information. But what's going on out there is not going to change. You'll be able to see more detail on where these are happening. And we actually had a fellow at, I think it was the first meeting, giving us an illustration on camera of how this is working. He's a contemporary, well-educated person who understands this stuff. It may help us to make better decisions on materials to use or what things to do, but it's not going to change the slumping that's going on in that area. So like I say, I look forward to reading more data. And yes, the last earthquake was about 400 years ago, and the report I read said that puts us on the edge of a new, bigger earthquake. Not that we're going to worry about that. What we are going to do is work with the best data we have, bring together the best solutions with all of the stakeholders in this. And I agree with Scott and Bill. Individual letters, lots of letters, going to Supervisor Muller's office. He has terrific staff, and they're there 2 days a week. Just go in, drop off a note and talk to them. They have been, they are educated and they communicate well with Ray, and it's a pleasant day. So yeah, I think we need to get moving on this, continue moving on it, not get moving, but we have been for the last 18 days, we've been working very hard on this. And I'm going to ask Clemens on our website about Seal Code, put a portion where somebody who wants to get notified of our agendas can delete us their email and sign up for it, and we will have staff create a mailing list of agendas. They usually come out 3 or 5 days in advance of the meeting. So generally it's on the Monday or Tuesday before the meeting. And they are always posted at the post offices and on the door here, or on the gate here. So we do make them available, and it's good if we can work together like the community that we are, to share all this information. Thank you.
Yeah, the one meeting that we had that was not on our normal cadence was the emergency meeting. And every meeting that we've had since is on the regular cadence of
First and third Thursday.
thank you. First and third Thursday. And I hesitated because the sewer authority Mid-Coast meetings are the second and fourth Monday. So it's so bear with me. Let me not confuse you. First and third Thursday, we're very likely going to be here. And if you're on the email list, if you send to info@mwsd.net requesting to be added to the email announcement list, you can, like everyone else who's on that, receive regular notifications of every agenda that goes out. And we'd love for you to avail yourself of that. What we're looking for tonight is first a motion to determine that the emergency condition still exists and warrants continuing the suspension of competitive bidding and authorizing the expenditures of funds therefore. Christine, is this a single item to then adopt the ordinance, or is this 2 separate items? I can't hear you.
2 separate items, please.
Okay, so could I have a motion as I read?
I will move a motion as you read.
I'll second.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we want a roll call vote?
Well, I'm gonna note that it was unanimous, 3-0. Okay. And next, we're looking for a motion, and this is for an ordinance. This will be a roll call vote. Adopt the motion to adopt continuing interim urgency ordinance of the Board of Directors of the Montara Water and Sanitary District, temporarily suspending the issuance of water and sewer service permits or otherwise restricting said service within the Seal Code critical geotechnical hazards area.
Director Boyd.
Oh, hang on.
I'll second.
Thank you. We're trying to keep it urgent, are we? As if we could have a roll call.
Yeah, Director Boyd.
Aye.
Director Slater Carter.
Aye.
Director Softke.
Aye.
All right, thank you. The ordinance is adopted by a vote of 3-0. All right, with that, we are going to go on to the rest of the agenda. I'd like to thank everyone who turned out for the Seal Cove item. I expect and I hope that we'll hear more from you, both in the comings and goings and also at subsequent meetings. We are committed to keeping you informed and really appreciate your thoughts and your concerns and take the time to share them. I'm going to suggest that we reorder the agenda because we do have neighbors here with an item about a permit. Item number, I think that was item number 3. And I'm wondering, given the time and how much we have left to do, it's now 9:33. With the item about receiving the report about first blood. It's a rather lengthy item. We had one at Sam. I'm wondering if we could reorder and do it after.
That's fine. We have to ensure that SIP gets back into the room.
Why don't we have the first flush report on another meeting?
I'm okay with that. Clement, you've been working.
Got people here for agenda, the 9th Street agenda meeting in the hall.
We said that.
Yeah. Clemens, do you think that's viable?
Yeah,
to
I think
reschedule?
that's yes.
Okay, I really appreciate RCD being prepared to present, and I'm sorry, but this is you know the public process, and I really appreciate you're part of the public process, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
It's a really nice report.
It is. It's really good.
Great.
But
Well, thank you all very much. So just confirming that we will be kicking this item to a future meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that works for me.
All right. So give Sid a chance to.
I'm fine. Please, go ahead. Sorry, people were out there waiting.
Okay. We're gonna take 5, so we're in recess for 5 minutes. We'll reconvene at 9:40. And, all right. Let's go now to review and possible, no, I'm sorry, that is the wrong one. Review and possible action concerning water main extension agreement for new service connection at 350 9th Street, Montara, APN 036025330. Clemens?
Yeah, thank you. So we have an applicant here that filed a new service application with MWSD for, that's a domestic connection as well as a fire protection service, as well also sewer services for new development, and that is located on 9th Street. In accordance with our code, the project requires 275-foot long extension or a 6-inch diameter water main extension in the public right of way. And that is from the existing 6-inch water main located on east to the essentially along the proposed new dwelling. That is the upper section of 9th Street. There is 9th Street is separated in 2 separate blocks here, and that is essentially the main line along that upper block on 9th Street. That's to provide water and fire sprinkler services for the proposed new development. In addition, the project also requires the reconnection of the 4 existing residences to the new water main. The water main extension was designed by the applicant's engineer, and our engineer confirmed that this was done in accordance to our district standard specifications. The design drawings have been approved and by MWSD. And usually we go out and ask a number of district certified contractors to award for proposals for this work and award this contract to the lowest quote that we receive. In this case, the applicant shows that the project not to be advertised, but be awarded to one of our district certified contractors, Masa Excavation. And so the bid total here is $79,000. Per our code, the applicant is responsible to cover all costs to furnish labor, materials, and equipment for the construction related to the water main extension and the water and PFP laterals. So we're seeking board's approval to enter into the agreement for construction and acquisition of the water main extension with the applicant, and we have attached the agreement as Exhibit A. So recommendation is to approve the agreement for construction and acquisition of water main extension for the new water service connection project on 9th Street. Thank you.
All right. And we do have a speaker slip from Ed and Lisa Park. So
Yes.
if you'd like to.
Okay, thank you, Clemens, for the overview, and to Director Young, Boyd, Senator Carter, and Sofke for your consideration. I do want to just state for the record, we have had some, what I feel are a bit of a misrepresentation of some of how some of this work was done. So just for example, in the second paragraph, it stated here that we chose not to have this advertised. We did confer with the district office and received the list of district approved contractors. And we reached out to the 5 that we were given. That includes Andrini Systems, Half Moon Bay Paving, J&B Construction, Masa Excavation, and SF Underground. And so we received back multiple bids and we chose the lowest bidder. And this was all at the direction of the district. And we also provided this information at multiple times to the district staff, including 2 of the district engineers. So we did do what it was we were directed to do. The other thing that I'd like to share for you, and this is in your board packet, is some emails, because what I would say, based on doing research and conferring with the engineers and folks who were involved with this project, is that the requirement for the 6-inch main, as Clemens said, on this upper end of 9th Street, as one SRT employee called it, it is a dead-end street. That did not align with the recommendation and the assessment from the experts who were hired to do the assessment. And so I want to read for you an email which is in your packet. It says at the top, forward project at 9th Street. If you look at the bottom of the first page, there's an email there from Mr. Navarro. This is a representative from SRT. And it reads, "Good morning, Abby." That is the engineer from Sigma Prime. "I think Clemens' intention was that the 1.5-inch main line is insufficient to supply PFP, that's the fire protection, flows to the property." The engineer from Sigma Prime emailed back a half an hour later and said, "Hi, I just got off the phone with Gary Kelsey of Aegis Fire Systems, who did the fire flow calculations for the proposed house at 359th Street. He was unaware that the main and the frontage was only 1.5 inches. However, he recalculated using 300-foot length at 1.5-inch diameter from the 6-inch main on East Street. Due to the high static pressure over 100 PSI, the PFP meter, if increased to 1 inch there, would be sufficient flow for PFP." So, and then talking to Mr. Kelsey from Aegis Fire Systems, from Abby from Sigma Prime, they indicated they very clearly communicated to the district manager the information that the existing main could support the flows, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, and the existing services. And I asked to make sure that that was clearly communicated, and the person from Sigma Prime said they went down to the district office and then spoke with the district manager until they were blue in the face. So they talked about this at length. I just did want to pass around a document. So what I have learned in this process is that to do the calculation for the water main for fire protection requires a lot of expertise. The person from Aegis Fire Systems and their company, this is all they do. They install fire protection systems. It also requires being certified in California to do this kind of work. In addition, it requires very specialized modeling software to determine whether or not the capacity is within the main. And so I want to be really clear that all of this information was collected and shared with the district engineer. I did also speak and meet with Aegis Fire Systems and Sigma Prime in the past month, and they both, I have this in email as well, they validated this by email. They both said that they very clearly communicated this to both the district engineer and the district manager, that the existing 1.5-inch main had plenty of capacity based on the static pressure of 100 PSI, and that there was no need to build a new water main to provide for the existing services, as well as our property and its fire protection system. So that's the first thing I want to share. The other thing is, as you'll note in your board packet, we provided a Google Maps shot of our property. My wife and I are not developers. This is the only home we've ever had built. This is not a subdivision. And what's really curious about this street is this is one of the most isolated streets along the coast. It is not even a full block. It is less than half a block on the upper end of 9th Street. Our street goes absolutely nowhere. It doesn't connect to other neighboring streets or neighborhoods. There's no subdivision. There's no possibility of meaningful growth. And because of that, and based on the expert engineer's assessment that there's sufficient capacity in the water main, there doesn't seem to be any justification to have a 6-inch main placed on a very limited dead-end street with a very small footprint in terms of the housing and the space that's available. So that's the first thing that we wanted to share. And I think, the thing that was really impressed upon me in this process is the engineers said that they felt that their feedback and their assessment was disregarded by the district manager for whatever reason, but that they clearly felt that this was unnecessary based on their expertise and the calculations. And again, I passed along the software and the calculations, the work that they did. The other thing that we wanted to share, so a couple things. We want to just mention, you'll see this in our letter, that the district's water utility standard specification, section 4-02B, states that the minimum water main size shall be 6-inch diameter unless otherwise specifically allowed by the district. And given that you as the board have discretionary authority here, we kindly ask you to consider allowing our home to connect to the existing water main, given that the capacity is there. And then given the incredible unique isolation of this street and its characteristics. So that is the first comment that we have. The other thing is that we did confer with the district and the engineers back in July of 2022. And so the person working for the district engineer for SRT was conferring with us and with the district manager. And at the time, and this is in your packet, actually, I will read this. At the time, it was agreed that, and we took notes after the meeting, which turns out to be very useful now, because the direction from the district is in conflict with what was discussed 2 years ago. But this says, thank you. This is our email to the district engineer. Thank you for confirming our purview that the water main extension is to the edge of our property and our connection only, and that MWSD will be responsible for the extension beyond our property and the connections for the other homes. So these 2 points we wanted to raise. One is that given the unique isolation of the street and that the engineers calculated and determined based on their expertise, that number one, that there is no need for a 6-inch main.
These are your engineers, not the district engineers.
These-
SRT. Which
No. These are engineers that were hired by the homeowner at the time.
Thank you.
Yes. It is really important to know, especially with systems like fire protection, we hire them, their determination is solely based on their expertise. No fire engineer is going to claim that there is capacity if the numbers don't add up, because as you guys can imagine, there is huge liability. And so, when I talked to the expert from Aegis Fire Systems, he was very clear, like, we have to run the numbers, this has to be objective, it's fact-based, it's based on our expertise. So the fact that it doesn't matter who hired them, they would give the same answer regardless. And the same also applies to Sigma Prime, who's a civil engineer. They also are subject to a lot of liability if they do not provide well-formed, well-educated based on their expertise assessment. So I just want to be clear, they're not saying this because they were hired by the homeowner. They're saying this because this is based on their professional expertise and the liability to which they would be subject to if they did not provide a objective assessment. So that's
One sec.
Sure.
You keep referring to homeowner, this is a vacant lot, so do you mean the property owner that sold it to you?
That's right. We purchased this from a woman who had been working with the district, and I think this process of the water main for her, I guess, was the last straw.
And it's not a homeowner near this property. Correct.
No, not at all.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know, thanks.
Yeah. Are there any questions from the board or anything that we can, elucidate from this documentation?
I have questions for Clemens. It's
I just
time.
I have questions for staff as well.
So you go first.
No, I think you've given us a lot of information.
May I just point out one other thing?
Sure.
As you'll notice in the quote, The bid from Dave Massa is broken down into two sections because if we were to have to extend the main, he was following the guidance of what Jerome had told me after he had spoken with the district manager, that we wouldn't be responsible for the extension beyond our lot or for the reconnects. So that's why his quote, if you can see, I don't know if you what page it's on, but from Dave Massa, that's included in the agreement. That's why it's broken down into two separate sections.
That aligns with the conversation.
Yes, it aligns with what we were told by the district and SRT that we would not be responsible. So it's broken up into two amounts. One is for 67590 and the other is for 12310. If if the board deems that it's necessary to build that, then that's what we were told, that we would have to pay for that additional amount that the district would.
Okay. Let me start with Clemens, and I think I want to go to Tanya next, but agreements with the district are reflected in the written contract, like the one we have in front of us tonight, correct? And there's no commitment on the part of the district until that kind of agreement is signed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And if a staff member has a conversation that's not determinative until it's actually reported into the contract and approved and executed, correct?
I'm sorry, I did not hear the question.
The conversations that happen aren't the commitment, it's what lands in the written agreement. That is,
It's not, and I did not see any documentation from district staff that make any concessions. I see a summary from someone else.
Okay, I have a question for Tanya then. Tanya, if you could unmute.
I'm ready.
Okay, when we're working with an applicant and they bring engineering calculations for some of the work that you have responsibility for, is it customary for us to receive calculations from applicants specialists?
No, President Boyd, members of the board, we do not consider calculations from the applicant's engineers or opinions. We do accept the fire protection engineers calculation for the connection, for the meter size for the applicant as it is, because they just tell you, and that's approved by the fire district. However, everything else is the district's purview. The fire protection engineers never comment on the size of the main in the street. And I would like to also point out that we do not put in mains less than 6 inches since 2003. We have not put one single main. Every main that was either replaced by the district because it was in the capital improvements program slated to be replaced, or paid for by the applicants, and there have been many. Date Street, San Ramon, you name it, many people had to do this. And the standard the district has always maintained was, first, it's a 6-inch main or larger. Yes, it could be larger, depending on the situation. But the minimum standard main is 6 inches in diameter for the district. It has to do with the flushing and the fire protection requirements for the entire district, not for each residence. To supply the fire hydrants. And it's a requirement of the fire department as well. That's how we derived to this criteria. And then there's another issue. Every applicant before this, since 2011, or no, I'm sorry, before that too, even before the moratorium was lifted, when people were installing fire protection services and having to put main extensions. Again, Date Street comes to mind. Had to reconnect services to the new main because the district had no plans to replace its main. And we had not planned to do anything in that street unless this work is being done because of this applicant. So the district had no funding allocated for this main. I think there was one instance in my history since 2003 with the district. If you remember Mrs. Hawkins, we had plans to replace part of that main. The district shared the cost. There was one time because we had plans. We had obvious plans. They were stated in the capital improvement program, and she paid quite a bit for her extension, and we paid for a piece of it.
What the district paid for was the section that connected it to the remaining system to close the loop.
That's right, to make the loop.
The applicant paid for the full main.
For the entire main portion that was needed for her home. If I may, President Boyd, comment on my staff's comments, or should I not?
No, go ahead.
2022, that was 3 years ago. And Jerome Navarro, who is unfortunately no longer with us, but is a very honest and diligent person. He also wanted to do the best for everyone. He knew that our responsibility is to the district to maintaining the district standards. He might have asked clements. I wasn't aware of it, but of course, I have to trust the applicant is telling how it was. There was no commitment. The question that was asked, whether or not this applicant is eligible to have the water main installation financed by the district. Because the district has a program for the well owners who are willing to abandon their wells and switch to the district system to finance that cost. This property did not qualify for the program because it's a new home. They're not switching from the well to private well to the district system. And so I think it's a honest misunderstanding. He tried, that I do know, but that wasn't the question. The question was, can this property be financed? He had no authority to say that the other residences don't need to be reconnected and paid for by the applicant. That isn't correct. I think it's just a misunderstanding.
Okay, thank you for the background on that. Other board members? Bill.
A couple things you said completely resonate with me. The thing about expertise and liability, because of course you get your people and then you can talk to them and so forth and get their opinion of what kind of pipes you really need for it. And yes, you're right. A professional won't just make up stuff. But that's true for Clements and Tanya too. We have to accept their advice. And so first of all, if they right now say, regardless of what someone else might have said or whether it was last year or this year, as far as I can tell, we kind of have to take Clements' judgment. And if Clements will say you don't need this main, then that's easy. But if he's saying you do need the main, I kind of have to roll with him for exactly the same reasons you go with your own engineers. And liability is the other thing. If we allow or permit, whatever the word is, something which proves to be insufficient in violation of our existing written standards. So we have this one size fits all thing, which is really convenient to make sure you don't accidentally hook up something you shouldn't hook up. That's why it's there. It would take creativity in deviating from that. And that kind of creativity, unfortunately, opens up for problems and possible lawsuits and so forth. So the exact same reasons that your engineers would be liable if they said something wrong. We are liable and our ratepayers are liable if we install something wrong or let you install something wrong. So the same reasons you gave for trusting your engineers, I kind of have to trust ours.
Sid?
Okay, my question's for Clemens. On this map, it shows that 10th Street wraps around on that little dirt portion there. And then East Avenue connects up with it at 9th Street. And then the other, on my phone, it didn't mention, you said it was on East Street, but it doesn't say what that section is between 10th and 9th, but it looks like on Google Maps it's 10th. It is, but I'm just saying it's labeled as 10th.
It's East Paper
Okay.
Road. Yeah.
All right. So I guess I'm a little questioning, where is the main coming from? Is it coming from the intersection of East/10th Street down 9th?
No, I'm sorry.
In other words, where that pasture looking lot is, it going in from that direction?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just going back up to the staff report where this is described.
I don't know what page
Yeah,
it's on, but
there's a line that runs on East between 8th and 9th.
8th and 9th. Okay. So there's no line that goes down 9th currently at all. And you are charging them for the whole length to their lot. Is that what my understanding is?
There's an existing line
There is a line.
that is serving the existing residences,
Okay.
and that line needs to be replaced in its entirety.
Oh. So none of those other houses are on wells on 9th Street that you could ask to connect to the district water?
The connection to district water is voluntary.
Right. I know that. Well, I lived in the neighborhood where Elizabeth Hawkins was, and she was the first one to connect when we lifted the moratorium. And I think I recall at that meeting that she was told she could have a credit if other people connected once she paid for the line.
No.
No. So when she paid for her line, it was just a short section. The rest was on the district to
No, she
continue
paid
the
for
loop.
for the long section. What we paid for was, for example, in this instance, I've heard the notion that this is a dead end main. That is not true from our perspective. The district will continue to connect it to the rest of 9th Street, which is a 6-inch main line. So that's another reason why this needs to be 6-inch. So at one point, depending on if there is, I think there's another developable lot. But at one point, the district may choose to connect both portion of 9th Street. Yeah.
So the part that's down at Farallon, where it looks
Right.
like there's a paper street running
Yeah,
across there.
there's something coming up.
Okay, so that's why they need to pay for the whole length of 9th Street.
That's correct. It's
I-
code.
Not the whole of 9th Street.
Well, he said that pipe needs replacing, just
No,
that
agreed,
portion.
but right, there's the, call it the two portions of 9th Street, the grassy part in between.
The
So,
pasture looking.
Yeah, you see the undeveloped lot.
Yeah, next to a house.
Yeah,
And
there's.
then their lot's next to a house, okay.
Yeah.
So they have to not pay for all the way out from the corner of East and 9th, but a portion of it.
From East and 9th down to their property.
Oh, so they do. The
Which
whole-
would be on
It is the majority.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all the way from here on East, all the way to 9th, all the way to that end here.
I see.
So-
And there's
That's their
there's a
property.
4-inch main actually running at the start of this, and then it switches to 1.5-inch, and so they want the whole thing replaced by.
Could I get clarification on that? I would understand that the main extension will go to the boundary of their property, not all the way to the end of the.
Right, in this case, it is the entire main line this section of main line that needs replacement.
I see.
And code is asking for exactly that.
Okay.
So there is a house past their vacant lot, and she just pointed on this map that that's where the line goes to, is that house.
That needs
But
to
they
be correct.
only need to pay for the portion up to their house, their lot, is that right?
No, we don't need the mainline extension, they need the mainline extension.
I didn't hear you.
All of it needs to be paid by the applicant per district code.
The whole length, even if you go
Correct.
beyond their property line,
Yes,
I don't understand why that would be.
because the upgrade is triggered by the applicant's project.
So you charge them for the entire upgrade, even though that pipe needs replacing anyhow? You said.
No, that's the thing. Right now, without the project,
They're not gonna replace that
there would
pipe.
be no work on replacing any of this. It's in a status quo kind of situation, and if there's need to bring a new line in, then that triggers kind of a cascade of work. And I think that this was information to me as well about, oh, we need to go beyond because there's like one more connection there. Is it one more or two more connections?
One, I think.
One
right?
more.
But I mean, I don't understand why that homeowner beyond their property line can't share some of the costs. I don't understand that.
But
Just
they,
because it's
Because
district.
our district code specifies that, and again, it's the applicant's project, not the
Okay.
district's project.
It's simpler this way.
So not for them, they have to
Well,
pay for the
it's-
whole thing.
I want to get back
I'm
to
just
how.
saying.
Could we keep going?
yeah.
I
okay, let's
want
go.
to just go back to how unusual the statement, the alleged statement from the fire sprinkler engineer is, because we don't have a statement from the fire sprinkler engineer, we have a statement from a geoscience firm that has worked on the design of the pipe that claims that the fire sprinkler engineer would have made a statement. I'm just gonna repeat how unusual that would be, because a fire sprinkler engineer fully understands that while these are theoretical values that you're plugging into a computer model, in actuality, flows depend very much also on pipe materials, pipe age, etc. We want this fire sprinkler system, the applicant wants this fire sprinkler system to work in 50 years. And that is why this is required per code. And we're of course, this is of course related to fire flow requirements that are coming from California fire standards. This needs to be a 6-inch main line.
So the 6-inch main line is gonna service the domestic water use and the fire sprinkler, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
We have.
Just a couple of things to clarify, just so the district manager is aware. Part of the email packet that we sent around was an email back from the fire systems engineer stating that per their calculations, and they've been on site and they've done some testing, that there is sufficient flow in the 1.5-inch main. So that was one of the emails that I passed around earlier. And this information has been made available to the district, even as long as when we became involved 6 months ago. The other thing I just want to mention, because it's curious, because we never heard of this, and this was never communicated to the prior homeowner either. We were told that in order to get services from this MWSD, that the well would need to be destroyed on our property. So we actually had water on our property. We were told that we would not receive any services. There was no mention of an option to have a main installed or any kind of credit. So this is a surprise to us. We've never, we had to pay to get our well destroyed, which was a shame because it was, tapping into clean water. So I just want to mention, again, it seems like a curious omission that this information was not communicated to either us or the prior homeowner. It was always a requirement. You have to destroy your well. And now what it feels like, and I'm, is that information was not communicated to us because we're needing to foot the bill for an infrastructure replacement.
I understand the thought, but the program to incentivize homeowners on existing wells to join the water system was an initiative that we put forward to try, as we took over the water system many years ago, to try to incentivize people to join in, and recognizing that they already had made pretty significant investments in their own water supply. So it would take a little bit of encouragement to bring them over. And we were also in a situation where, while we had the power, had we chosen to exercise it to order them to join, we wanted instead to, use carrot instead of stick. And in all that time, we've not forced people to do it. We have tried to make it attractive, and so we come up with financing plans and other things But this would not have applied in this case because there was no existing home, there was no existing homeowner, and that was the intention of that plan.
Well, and I
want to-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
First, we have to meet the California fire standards and codes. We can't make exceptions for those things, and that 1.5-inch pipeline is probably 60, 70 years old. It may be even from a former private water company, we don't know. You really, I think having up-to-date equipment and materials is in your best interest. I have some questions on the agreement. I noticed that Jerome made a note, and I believe Tanya says that Jerome is no longer there, but he said that the material for the water main, or the lateral for the water main, goes only to the property line, and it's my understanding, my recollection, that all of the laterals are the responsibility of the property owner up to the main. So that, maybe you could just double check that.
No, we, water lateral, ownership and responsibility, unlike on the sewer side, is, so the district does own the laterals from the, main to the meters.
Okay, the main to the meter, not the property line.
The meters may be at the property line or maybe somewhere else. The
Right.
meter is determining where the private ownership of the lateral starts.
Okay, how long is this agreement going to last? Does it cease to be of value or any use when if the property is sold?
So after the installation, after 1 year of the installation, the district takes on the ownership of this main line. So we will take on the full responsibility and maintenance of this water main line.
Okay.
Gotcha.
It's been a while since I've read our permits, but in talking to a friend who works for builders and is a very sharp attorney, he recommends that in our permits, we put in some protective language about the fact that the lines can and will break. In all possibility, and so he had some suggested language. I'll try and get it for you guys, about protecting the district from the kind of angst and problems that we're seeing with these folks who were unaware of the major earthquake faults and so on. There are earthquake faults running all over my here. And I don't know, I don't know where they are, but it's certainly worth looking into. But I appreciate what you're going through on costs and trying to build a house. Been there, done that. And to be real honest, I know burned down at the end of 2023 completely. So I'm also at this point managing costs and those kinds of things. But the district, our job as a board is to take care of the district and make sure that we have all the right new materials and sizes of pipes, because if you go down from a larger pipe to 1.5-inch pipe, there are pressure problems and so on. And I'm trying to think, I had one other thought that flitted, but that's okay.
Director Sarkarja, if you try to figure out that thought, I just wanted to make one clarification. The fire hydrant is connected to East Street. So building a 6-inch main on a different street is, I mean, that was stated earlier as a reason to replace the main and R Street. The water is not going through there to get to the fire hydrant. It's already there. So I just wanted to clarify. I mean, I'm looking at the plans. So
I have a question for Clemens.
Well, I'm not done.
Oh, well, you were rambling.
I was rambling. Oh, aren't you sweet?
I mean, not about their property, we're just talking about
Okay.
stuff in general.
All right, let's get back to this. Catherine, why don't you
No,
finish
I'm
up?
done.
Uh,
I don't need to be assaulted.
so-
Back to this thing. Clemens, there is a house next to their vacant lot, and then there's another vacant lot. If 9th Street, the paper street, is extended and somebody wants to build on that lot, and they use the new main that's being put into 9th Street to build their house, would they then get credit for some of the extension?
No,
Okay,
I mean, that if we don't work with credits, this could be an arrangement between homeowners or property owners that does not involve us.
We have seen those in the past.
I
It's
know
been
we
a-
have. That's
it's
why
been
I
a long
asked.
time since
Okay.
we saw that.
just asking.
Yeah.
Director
I have-
Boyd, may I just comment? I've been holding a list since you guys
Hold
started.
on, one more thing.
Okay, you just told the board and the public that the district did not inform you about the required well abandonment.
No, I don't think that's what he said.
That is,
He said about the financial credit that you were talking about from the previous
The
owner.
incentive plan, or
We didn't discuss the
that's how I
incentive.
understood what they said.
This thing common or.
that was my
yeah.
intention. Thank you. We had no, if a credit obviously would
the
change.
jurisdiction for wells lies with San Mateo County.
Yes.
The failure to notify you about a well abandonment lies with San Mateo County.
I don't
That
think
is
that's what my husband was talking about. You were discussing that Jerome and Tanya had said that we were not eligible for a district fund. This was before our time. And so we were not part of that conversation with Jerome and the previous owner where you guys were talking about incentive program. I think that's what he was
it was-
referring to.
They hadn't heard about the incentive program. And they had been told by the county they had abandoned their well. And it's like, that seems kind of
Perfect storm.
contradictory, right? Because like, if you abandon the well, then how could you get that incentive program? That's why I was explaining that that was for existing homes. And so the county did talk to them because you abandoned the well, right?
Well, we just know that was part of the permit process that
Yeah.
had to happen.
Okay.
So I just think I'd like to just discard that conversation because that was not relevant to what
But
we
I
what we
think
were.
just to be clear, you're not saying that I think we're straight on that.
Okay, I just want to go back all the way if I can remember all these points. So the first thing is that we were not allowed to even get on the agenda or come to this meeting unless we signed the agreement, and we had to sign the agreement with 0 changes whatsoever. We couldn't strike anything out. We had multiple conversations back with Tanya about this. And so I know Director Boyd, you were saying that the agreement is what the district is agreeing to at the time. We were not allowed to even have a conversation with you about any of this until we signed that agreement and paid the full amount and the deposit, the security deposit. So what we understood is when we submitted that application, we also submitted the email thread that I had documented my conversation with Jerome from SRT, who had spoken with the district manager to confirm that we were only responsible for the main up to the end of our property, and that the district would be responsible for the reconnects as well as the extension beyond our property to the house below us. And so that was what we had commented before we even purchased the lot. We made sure all that was solidified and verified, and that I documented an email with Jerome before we even purchased, because all of this is we had to put a budget together and had to get a loan. And so I just want to say that I understand what you're saying, that is the agreement with the board, but that is the only way we were able to even come speak with you. So that's why we signed it. Of course, if we have to pay that whole amount and the district is not going to honor what they agreed to, that's up to the board. But we had purposely emailed Jerome, and even if he didn't email me back, every conversation you can see I had with him, I emailed him back, and then I commented what we were saying because I wanted to have the documentation.
Yeah.
Who knows when someone leaves the company and Jerome is no longer with SRT. So just to let you know, I never had conversations with him about district financing with Jerome. It was just about what are we responsible for and what is the district responsible for. And when he agreed that, and he went to the district manager, he got that information, he came back and told me that was our understanding, and that's why we purchased, and we knew what our expenses would be. Then the next point I wanted to make was that I do believe that we've already run, we passed our first fire inspection test after we had all the rough-ins for the PFP, and we passed. And that was the fire department came out and said everything was sufficient. No, we haven't run the second test because we're waiting to actually do the water and fire trenching and add that in once we get approved to go forward. We can't do that without doing the 6-inch main work together because it would just be inefficient to do that. But we have passed and we had sufficient water. So my understanding is that, give me a moment. So is that it's not, we understand that the district has a rule for a 6-inch water main, and it's not based off of our current main, the 4-inch main and the 1.5-inch main on our street. It's basically just a general rule. And we appreciate that general rule. There needs to be some general rules that people follow, but then the board does have the ability to make exceptions. And so that's what we're asking for, either that exception or at least to abide by what we were told, which is that we wouldn't have to pay beyond our lot, which would be more proportionally fair, not to pay beyond what we are doing, and for those reconnects. Give me one moment. I just need to, there was a lot of comments, and so I just need to go back and remember what I was trying to write. Oh, so we do want to know, what are the SRT calculations that are saying that, yes, there are a lot of probabilities that the water main could be actually fine and flowing great and no issues, but we can't go based off of guessing. But what we are going off of is basically what the engineers from Aegis and from Civil have told us. And we're assuming that SRT has made, if you're saying they've done their own calculations, and that's what you're going off of, versus the district manager, who's not an engineer, who may have understanding of it, but not the calculations. We'd like to just know what those are.
Clements is not an engineer.
Is he the district engineer?
No, SRT.
That's what I thought. And so SRT is not saying that the calculations from their part, what I understood from Jerome was they weren't saying that the calculations were saying that we needed a 6-inch main, that they were saying it was sufficient. But
Let's put the question to our district
Tanya.
water engineer, Tanya. You want to address the issue?
Sure. President Boyd, members of the board, I think we have just a lot of built up misunderstanding. The district engineer does not calculate the size of your main unless it's a major development but in this case, the 6-inch main is the district standard. The district engineer is responsible for estimating the size of your connection, of your domestic connection. The fire protection connection comes from your sprinkler engineer. And then we review your plans for the conformance to the district standards. And that's what 6-inch main is. When Jerome, what you just described, when Jerome was speaking with you, you were not an applicant. You had no application with the district at all. Is that correct? Am I wrong? So I have personally spoke with Jerome, and I remember this conversation when he asked me whether or not this applicant potentially would be eligible for the district financing. That's not the district pays the cost. District just allows the people to have a loan to switch from the well, abandon their well, to switch from the well to the district system. Is an incentive program. I think Director Boyd has very eloquently described the program, if I'm not being clear.
I think we're getting distracted again with that program because that wasn't part of.
So I think I'm going to boil this down. The district engineer's responsibility is to see to it that the district code and the standards as adopted by the district are adhered to, and that what we build is conformant to that. And what we've heard is that the district engineer has made the determination that the standard is what's appropriate here. And I'm just going to mention one more thing. I know it doesn't look like there could be a whole lot of development there, but I count no fewer than 5 developable parcels right there on that street. And that's no, when we look at a property, our job is to consider the long term. And so in general, who's living there today or who plans to live there tomorrow doesn't tell us much about who's going to be there in 20 years. And that seems like a really long time, but I've been here longer than that, and I didn't plan on that. But lo and behold, it turns out we put stuff in the ground after I got here that we're already replacing. And we've had situations where, oh, look, ownership changed, or someone came on a hardship and they sold that land they said they would never sell. So we have to look at the potential in the engineering and make, this is one reason the standards are here, is because they anticipate, okay, what could be happening and what do we need to do? And if we made no change here, and then those developed, and then for sure there had to be an upgrade, well, they're going to be pointing up the street and going, well, those guys should have paid for it. So it's a hard situation. Building is very, very hard, and I'm very sympathetic to it. I've seen so many situations. And
Respectfully, Director Boyd, there's only one lot to the right of us that can be built on that 9th Street dead end. So there's only
that's
one.
That's what's paved right now.
There's only one vacant parcel.
There are
several.
The ones to the left of us are south on the other side of 9th Street.
They're downhill, and they would need to be.
They connect up from the bottom.
No, those parcels have no connection right now.
Yes, but they'd connect up from the bottom, not from the East Street fire.
I don't know what the district engineer would determine about how they should be fed.
Okay.
The other thing is just might be worth mentioning is that, I mean, you guys have probably walked up that hill. It's not buildable. That's what we've been told. Like those parcels, they can't build homes with services because they can't actually get the services to them.
But clearly those are all on the other half of the of 9th Street. So they don't connect up to our fire hydrant, which is on East. The house next to us is the last lot. And so there's only one vacant lot next to us. And that owner to the right of us owns both of those lots. They're building right now, and they're building a nice little yard there for themselves. Doesn't mean someone can't move in later. Totally agree. And that would be up to their calculations when they apply for their permit. Just one other quick thing. The
not buildable claim, we've seen. I said how many, since
I've lived in Seal Cove since 1988, and suddenly the county was selling permits like a fire sale, and these big giant houses have gone up. Even though they say we're in this critical geological zone, so
even
you
if
can never count on saving your view or anything else.
That's right. Even if those do get developed, it would be up to that homeowner at that point and the calculations at that point.
My point in making this was that what we do today has an impact on what happens tomorrow.
Sure.
And it's our job to always think about what happens tomorrow and the day after that.
Right.
And to prepare this thing for, financially, we're allowed to look 20 years down the road, but realistically, we've got to look as far down the road as we can. And even if they're unbuildable by today's engineering standards, technologies change, financial situations change. Not only that, there could be ADUs going in, and there will be ADUs going in. There are going in all over our community. It's also putting demands on the water system. So the standards become even more important as the state has put regulations on us that we've got to support ADUs in places where we haven't even included them in the calculations for the infrastructure that's in the ground, and said, you've got to do this anyway. So it's complex, but one way we deal with that is by having the engineering standards. So
Okay, one last question. If they pay for that line all the way from the corner of 10th/East down 9th, their parcel and the one beyond.
no, 10th has nothing to do with this.
What?
10th has
Well,
nothing to do.
it's on this map I'm looking at, so.
No,
anyway.
10th is not involved.
Okay, well, east and 9th, all the way down to the parcel beyond them where there's a house and a car in the driveway on the map I'm looking at. Across from that, there's a house and then there's another house and it looks like a vacant lot. And there's a vacant lot next to them. So my question is, if they approach the other neighbors, maybe they're on wells, maybe they're not, and they want to help contribute to the line, there's nothing that would stop the parks from negotiating to help pay for their long sewer water line down to their property, right?
Again, as long as it does not involve Montara Water and Sanitary District, there's no problem with them negotiating.
No one wants to. No one wants to donate to our water main fund.
I mean, I'm just saying, you're paying for it.
Yeah.
If another lot goes in right on that side, it would be really nice to know.
I
that
appreciate
you could ask.
the owner across the way owns both of those lots below, and they also don't connect to our water main. They would connect to the one down on whatever, there's a street below.
Depends on what SRT
May I just
says.
correct one thing that Tanya
I
said?
need to, sorry, a point of order.
Okay, no problem.
To extend this meeting for 10 more minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, if I hear
Second.
no objection, any objections?
Second the
So
motion.
we're extended until 10:45. And I appreciate everyone's endurance on this.
Thank you. One quick correction to what Tanya said. The previous homeowner had this in agreement with Jerome herself also, that the district would be doing the reconnects and the extension be on our property to the house below. And so I only called him because I wanted to have that in my own ear and write it down in my own
I
documentation.
want to be really, really clear. Jerome had no authority to make any agreement.
He didn't make the agreement. He went and checked with Clemens and gave me the information.
Was it in writing?
And
I documented it in the email because
right,
yeah.
that kind of situation, if something needs to be written, the way to do that is to get staff to write that.
Our staff.
And the person who's
Get
gonna be
Clemens to put
driving
it
and
in
getting that
writing.
contract in front of us. So that's just how that's gonna work. I mean, the staff member really is not in a position to
I think that's why he didn't reply back, but he did verbally tell me and he did check and we
Yeah.
had the whole
and-
conversation.
and I think that's understandable, but not particularly helpful in this
I
situation.
have a question for Christine. Christine,
Yes.
in this world of special districts and contracts and finding agreements, Scott asked the question earlier, but maybe you could expand on it. The only binding documents are ones that are written and agreed to by both sides. Any verbal comments are not binding. Verbal comments by parties who are in no way employed or party to this district, except on a consulting basis, but not a hire of ours. They're interesting information, but they do not bind the district. Am I correct?
You are correct. The concept of, yes, you do not create a binding contract without a written agreement that's signed by two parties.
It's true, though, that our district has gone back on their word to do a project, because we just had that happen with Pillar Ridge in March. They had gone through a whole thing to get that new fire system, I think it was. And then like the next meeting or the next few meetings later, they pulled it back. I don't know if maybe it wasn't signed,
Said there was no
no agreement.
contract. No, there was no contract
No
because
signed
there was
agreement.
no agreement because that was a district project.
There's no nexus.
But they did go back on what they originally negotiated.
No,
With
they,
Pillar Ridge.
there is no they, that is we,
Okay,
this district. And this district planned to do a project, conditions on the ground changed, the district chose to take a different path.
exactly.
There was no.
That's my point.
But Sid.
That's my point.
No,
You
I
made
thought.
my point.
I thought.
No.
Let me finish my point. Sid, all three of us are disagreeing with you.
Okay.
The point is this, you were trying to draw a comparison to a contractual agreement. And what we're all saying is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the district had a plan to conduct a project and chose to alter the plan for the project. That is not changing an agreement in any way. It's a completely
I
different
just
category.
remember Lisa Ketchum calling in and crying because you guys had already committed to do it. I remember seeing it in the board package and all of a sudden now we're not committed to it. So whether we had a signed agreement or not is beyond me. I don't know. It was sad.
Lisa had concerns, but this was not a contract.
Okay,
In fact, Pillar Ridge had concerns about maybe not even wanting the project.
all right.
So this was not about disappointing them in any way.
Okay. I didn't hear that part of it.
Well,
She was
that's-
pretty upset. I remember that
I
part.
remember she was upset, but
Okay, okay, that's it.
very, very clear. This was a district project.
We have no further comments. Thank you all for your time and listening and reading through our information.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time that we took and your forbearance on this.
City.
I heard a motion, we have approval.
Oh, no, the motion was for the extending
Oh,
of the meeting.
That's right.
At this point, though, I think we're at the point where the action in front of us is whether or not to approve the agreement.
Okay.
They've signed it, right?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, you're all in the room, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 4-0. The agreement is approved.
Welcome to Montana.
I wish you the very best on completing this expeditiously. I know it's taken a long time, and I'm really grateful that you got to be here with us tonight.
How soon?
It's been a tough slog, and I know that. And
This is the longest one in 10, so when this is done, yeah.
So do you think in a year you'll be all living there?
We hope much sooner. Dr. Boyd, would you just please let us know what is the next step after this?
let me look at that and ask about that.
You can call Tanya and ask that question.
Okay,
Mhm.
every time we have conversations with Tanya, they are long and expensive and we don't get the answers. We would like to work with the staff to find out.
Call county planning.
We've got everything set. We've already signed with the contractor. We're ready to start digging. We just need to know from Montara Water if we've signed the agreement, if we're good to go. Instead of having, we've spent, just to get to this meeting, we've spent, I believe, $3,000 just trying to get through with Tanya and that just
Okay.
seems outrageous.
Well, Clemens,
Well, again, this is in the hands of our district engineer. You need to communicate with our district engineer, and these are, of course, costs that need to be paid for by the applicant. I think it's a very brief and simple question, and I don't understand why this would take, fairly long. I think Tanya can lay that out. Very simple, and it is, again, we are dealing with this on a daily basis with many applicants that go through these processes,
okay,
and all are treated the same.
okay. So, Tanya, pretty simple conversation for this next step, but would that be correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Can you just explain what that means? Because are we just going to her and saying we've signed the agreement, the board agreed, can we start building? Or is it something else? Because it seems a little vague and a little conversation like that has taken many hours and lots of time.
Is it possible, Clemens, you and Tanya could work on just a list?
It is all in detail laid out in the very extensive and detailed application packet. So
So you've got the packet.
if again,
Okay, with the signed agreement, are they waiting on any further document from Tanya in order to be able to proceed, or is
No,
this? No,
So
okay, so
all
this
those are
so
rolling.
this should be a very short conversation according to my understanding here. If it's not, let me know.
Okay, great. Thank you all so much.
All right.
Thanks.
All right.
It's a long trip. Don't bump your head.
Thanks.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Let me, one real quick question. Do we need to get the generator off for us tonight? Are we on a clock on that?
Pippin,
We could kick it if you really need to. The main clause is just trying to secure an order for a new unit before the prices go.
Let me propose this. Okay, we're gonna take up this item right now. I hope everyone's read the packet. Does anybody need a board presentation or are we ready to take a vote?
With the board package, I move we vote to buy that generator.
Getting the generator.
Let's buy it.
Okay,
I made it
Is that a
first.
second?
so I think we need, it's a
The
resolution.
second.
It's a resolution, so we need more than acclamation, but all right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the resolution approving purchase as written. It's a resolution, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Easiest resolution we've ever passed. Thank you all.
2 minutes from a vote.
Hearing no objection,
Good.
we're adjourned.
It pays to read those board packets.
And
We're listening to people who do.
and